Welcome to the Pestle, reviewing and breaking down movies to look for insights into the movie-making process. Hosted by before and after photos. Just flex, shave your chest, look happy, and add a little top lighting. Lights, camera, action.
Welcome everybody to the Pestle. Today's show is brought to you by Average Joe's Gymnasium. Support your local gym and aspire to be average at Average Joe's Gymnasium. Welcome to the Pestle. I am Wes.
And I'm Todd.
And this is a show normally where we filmmakers analyze and break down films and look at how movies work, why a camera was chosen to use on a project, or why they use these particular angles, the story, themes, and setups, payoffs, and kind of analyzing that to pieces, in our own way. Today is not that day.
Not at all.
We are doing something way as a one-off, unless, we spend the last episode of, this is number 98. And so, unless episode 98 and 99 are both special editions, then it would be a two-off. But this is a one-off. And so we are doing today a special episode about the 3 rules of fat loss.
So random.
But
that's okay.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a chronicling of my process of losing weight. If you have not, you can go to the pestlepodcast.com /3 rules of fat loss, all together, one word. 3 is the number, and see the before and after picture so that you know who's talking and how unimpressive he may be. But more than anything, it's just kind of going through and looking at the rules of how you can lose body fat specifically. And it's so much more simple. The goal here is to remove the mythology and mystique of fat loss, not to make fun or throw shade on any particular method, but to tell people they've been misled on what it takes to lose body fat. I'm sure keto, paleo, Men's Health, Jillian Michaels, Biggest Loser, Whole30, Atkins, and whatever else have all helped people lose weight and make some progress. But wouldn't it be nice to be able to predict when you will reach your goal? Like, dieting sucks. Losing weight sucks. It's not fun. But it doesn't have to suck as badly as people make it out to be. It doesn't have to be this unpredictable, mythologically complex system of randomly pulling levers and pressing buttons and hoping for the best. There are very simple, basic, knowable rules that can let you know exactly what needs to be done and how long it will take to get there with shocking precision. It may not be easy, but it's super, super simple, and it doesn't have to be all that difficult. And so that's really why we're doing this. Is I get kind of frustrated seeing friends and family, and I'm a very I'm not an aggressive personality. I'm very chill and laid back, and sometimes I'll throw out an idea like, "Hey, well, why don't you try this?" And it's very unexciting. People want the new fad, they want the new thing, and to some degree I understand, because it's a motivating thing. Like, oh, I'm going to try this new thing, and that can help me, and there's goodness in that for sure. But it's also frustrating me on the inside whenever I see it's limited progress and then stalls, and then people give up. And I think the reason a lot of people give up is because they don't really know where the results are going to come from.
Yeah. If
you knew exactly how to get the results that you want, I think that would probably alleviate a lot of the stress of going through this whole process. And
like looking at food. I've tried diets, and not that I really, I've been lucky that I haven't really needed them, but like I have, at times tried diets, and it's really frustrating. Everything you see is like talks about macros, and I gotta know how much protein is in this chicken breast, or how many carbs are in this rice. It makes it so hard to follow and understand if you're eating something good or eating something bad, or good for you depending on the type of diet that you're on, or bad for you depending on the type of diet. It's exorbitantly more confusing depending on the diet that you're on. If or just what your goal is. Really, everything changes depending on your goal, right? So
totally that. Yeah. It's totally that. And so before we get going and diving in, I'll throw out a disclaimer that should be obvious based on the show intro itself. But we're not doctors. We're not licensed trainers or anything at all.
Yeah. No.
I'm not a licensed filmmaker for that matter.
We're just two guys.
We're just two guys.
We're not licensed at anything. I have a driver's license.
Yeah, so
That's it.
that's true. I do have an M class at that, so I can drive motorcycles legally.
Oh, yeah, right.
No, not trucks. I'm not a trucker. But
Yet.
Ideally, we're all coming in this with open minds. I could be wrong about something and regret something a month from now as I learn more, or you could be wrong and have learned a bad habit or myth or assumed your anecdotal evidence is ironclad fact when maybe it isn't. We're all here learning, and it's okay to get it wrong sometimes. So we're exchanging ideas, and it's okay if you disagree with me on something I say. That's all a part of the game. And so of everything, like you could throw out religion, politics. I think I see people get more aggro on fitness culture than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, if they've spent the last 4 or 6 months on a particular diet, they're going to fight for that diet.
That's so
right?
true.
Otherwise, they've wasted their time.
Right. No one wants to feel that way.
No, right.
And so, yeah, that's basically what we're doing here and who you're dealing with. And so we'll talk about a lot of things. I'll at the very top, right after this rundown, I'll go over the 3 rules of fat loss. I guess technically defined by me, but I think they're really good, and I'll point out why they're good. I'll give you a very quick, brief overview for context of my fitness history, just so you have a little bit of idea of who I am, my background. I think one of the tricky things about before and after pictures is you don't know if this guy used to be a college athlete and he used to bench 350, and that transformation all of a sudden looks like, oh my God, in 8 weeks he suddenly became this monster. It's like, man, there's a thing called muscle memory that can really cheapen the results, and I am not that guy. I've never benched with 2 plates, to be quite honest. Like 205 for I think 2 reps was maybe 3 reps, was the best I've ever done under the bench. So I'm not that guy. And then we'll do a deeper dive into the 3 rules and go over things like what is a calorie, why you have failed to lose weight if you've tried and you're like, man, nothing seems to work. I will tell you exactly why it hasn't worked. We'll talk about metabolism myths and other things that don't really matter. We'll touch on detoxes and juice cleanses, briefly comment on common diets like paleo, keto, Whole30, etc. I haven't done almost any diets ever, but I have tried a Whole30 for a month, and that was interesting. I don't have anything good or bad to say, but maybe something good, but whatever. We'll talk about predictability and before and after pics and stats, which I kind of already did. May have already
covered that one.
Yeah. We'll talk about something called recomping. I'll help define that if you don't know what it is. And measurements, tracking your progress, and some of my favorite tools to do all these things that we're talking about. I'll cover my diet, meal prepping, recipes, supplements, dealing with hunger, in addition to working out, cardio, and lifting weights, and my workout plan and why I chose that and why you should probably not do the workout that I did. And injuries. Hard to get around, exercising and not worrying about injuries, knees, backs, all kinds of tricky things in human beings.
And you've had history with that.
Yeah, very long history with back injuries. We'll talk about staying motivated, all the things that I use to keep myself motivated. This was a 30-week period that I went through. And I really didn't do any cardio. And so for 30
on purpose.
Yeah, on purpose, just to prove a point, that it's not in spoiler, cardio is not one of the 3 rules. Yeah. But it's about, so staying motivated, as I kind of drug this process out methodically, was very critical for the mission here. Well, let's talk about post-diet. What happened when I finished? What am I doing now? What are my goals coming up? And how did I respond to, so to speak, crossing the goal line? And because this is a movie podcast, we'll also talk a little bit about movie bodies. Like whenever you see someone getting ready for a big role or their transformation, some things to keep in mind, and we'll comment about that a little bit. And depending on how we're going, might scan a few articles for common fallacies. So there's just you could literally, and this is what I did literally was I Googled something like how to lose fat or how to lose weight. And I just picked like the first 3 things that I saw.
Okay.
And so maybe we'll do that. Maybe not. I don't know. It depends on how long we end up running this thing.
Sounds like it's going to be
a
doozy.
Yeah. And we'll also do a quick recap and quick start guide on how to get started, because there's going to be so much information by the end. You're probably going to be overwhelmed and feel like you don't know what to do. And so it's probably a good idea to end with a very basic, hey, here's whatever, 5 quick things that are very easy to do right now to get you started. And other such stuff and things and stuff. And normally,
so the synopsis here is that West used to be a fat ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not a fat ass. I'm just playing with you.
I felt like it.
You might have felt like it, but you weren't, because you're 6'4". You can hold a lot of mass and not look overweight, right?
Yeah.
What were you, 215?
217.
217. And then you finished at
172.
That is crazy. That is 5 pounds more than me. That's insane.
That is
I'm
insane.
4 inches shorter than you. So you started at 217, ended at 172 over a 30-week period.
Yeah.
And you did no cardio.
Correct.
You
technically, I got on the assault bike twice for like 3 or 4 minutes each. And if you want to say that was, the difference here, then we might have a difference of opinion. The other thing I did once a week for like 3 minutes was it was more for my back and legs. It's just kind of a finisher, a 50-calorie row.
Oh yeah.
And so I did that once a week, and then twice did an air assault bike for a couple minutes.
Okay.
So if you're going to say I lost
cardio,
45 pounds.
but because it's only 3 minutes, it's not a big deal.
It's not, right?
If you went for a run for 30 minutes, that's cardio.
Right.
Or 20 minutes, that's cardio.
Completely agree.
Yeah, 3 minutes, who gives a shit? And you did this all to prove a point.
Yeah.
Which was that all of this convolutedness is just confusing the point of losing fat, losing weight, and that it is so much more simple than the industry lets on, because they want you to buy supplements, they want you to buy into this weight loss
their magazines
thing. They want you to go down rabbit holes when you're searching for all of these like things. Maybe this would work, maybe that would work, whatever. When in reality, it just comes down to 3 things.
3 things. It's super simple.
I'm really glad you're doing this,
dude. Thanks, man. I'm nervous and excited.
I'm probably gonna be pretty quiet this whole time, just so that we can get through everything. I mean, if I have something to say, I'm definitely gonna chime in, and I want to kind of like try to speak from the point of view of someone who might not really believe that it's this easy, right? Yeah. Someone who might say, yeah, but.
And if I gloss over something, I've been thinking about this episode for the last, not quite a year, but probably 9 months.
Yeah.
And in that 9 months, I've had like a million things I wanted to say that I simply am going to forget about. And so if there's something I gloss over or speed over, or you feel like I'm not mentioning, like, that's your cue. Like,
Gotcha. I'll chime in when I have something to say. But
awesome.
Yeah.
And so, let's just dive right in. So the 3 rules are not complicated. Rule number 1, create a calorie deficit. Rule number 2 is resistance training or lifting weights. So in rule 1, right, we're going to lose weight. And in rule 2, we're looking at, you can only lose weight really from one of 2 places, generally speaking, which is your fat or your muscle. And I think nobody wants to lose
not gonna lose bone
muscle. Yeah, you're probably not gonna lose very much bone, especially if you're lifting weights. And so by lifting weights, you're sending that signal to your body that, hey, we want to hold on to the muscle, and therefore your body's like, okay, well, I'm in an energy deficit. I need to lose this. I need to come up with that energy from somewhere, and therefore it's going to pull it from your fat, and you're going to end up consuming, your own body for energy because you're eating below your maintenance. And I'll dive into that more in a minute. So rule 2 is lifting weights or resistance training, which is way simpler than you probably think it is if you've never been to a gym. Rule 3 is eat enough protein. How you figure that out is interesting, and there's tons and tons and tons of research and articles that are done on that very specific topic, and no one is really 100% sold on any one method. I think the easiest way for me to figure it out is 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass, because other people say, oh no, you only need 0.82 grams per pound of total body weight. And the reason I like the idea of lean body mass, which is if you calculate, if you know how much body fat you have and subtract that from your total body weight, that's your lean body mass. And that is going to include stuff like your organs and your bone and your muscle. That's a really good way to just kind of, if you're really, really overweight, let's say you weigh 350 pounds, you probably don't need 300 grams of protein. You probably only have, close to 200 pounds of lean body mass in there. So it doesn't make sense to add in all this crazy, ridiculous extra amount of protein that you probably don't need in order to retain your muscle and help them recover. And so that's it. Those are the 3 rules: create a deficit, lift weights, eat protein. And I'll get into how you can do those things, in a very smart, methodical way that allows you to figure out, when am I done?
Yeah.
When am I going to see results? It's much, much faster than you think. Real quick, my background, my fitness background, if you want to call it that. I'm the youngest of 4, little Texas town, tiny, nowhere. My big brother, Trav, got like a Bowflex knockoff when I was like 10. And so I would jack around on that. I like doing squats because, your legs are stronger, so you can do more weight on squats.
Yeah, more bands.
I wish I would have done more benching, but as it goes. But beyond that, like, he started training and teaching me a lot. He would take me to the gym whenever he got into, junior high and high school. And then I got into sports, and if you're in high school sports in Texas, for sure, you're in the weight room. So 7th grade, started working out, but in 9th grade, I made a good friend named Raymond. And so I'm high school athlete, football, basketball, to some extent baseball. That was when I first started getting back issues, was playing baseball. Was actually in basketball, but it hurt more in baseball. So I quit baseball. But I had made a good buddy in town named Raymond, who was older guy, worked at a local Pizza Hut, but he lived so far out of town that I would let him crash at my place because more or less I kind of lived by myself in high school. And he was a bodybuilder. And so Raymond, after my high school workout, I'd go to sports, in the gym, do all that. He would then drive me all the way to College Station, which was about a half hour from my town of Somerville. And we would work out again. I would do his workout now. And so I started learning a lot as this PIPS week about how to lift weights, how to breathe whenever you're lifting. I'm 15 years old, learning all these techniques and watching him log his workouts. Like, he would have spreadsheets, and he printed one out for me too, so that I could log my workouts. And anytime I was like, man, we did legs yesterday, he's like, oh, you're young, you're fine. Like, you're doing them again today. So 2 leg days. He just didn't care. And he was awesome. Like, I learned so much from him that I still use today. And this was in, the mid 90s. And so obviously research has, progressed a lot since then, and methods and techniques. But I owe a lot to Raymond and getting me in gyms for several years before, high school coaches. I mean, they're doing their own weird things, especially in backwater towns like mine.
Oh yeah, everywhere.
And so yada yada. After high school, I didn't work out for a year or 2, and then we got a home gym. Like, my roommate was a ex-Colorado Buffalo football player, and so he built out this badass gym in his garage, and we would lift in there. And he pulled me in one day, and we just kind of went to work, and that kind of reignited my passion again. And then once we were just talking about this, like, once you get this passion going, you just go with it for as long as you can. And for me, it was researching and reading and reading books. And I just got so deep into, the literature and the science. And I like to read studies, believe it or not. I may not be able to parse all of the language in there and all the results, but I can certainly take the abstract and some of the methodology and make heads or tails of that for sure. And it's funny because nobody would ever look at me and say, "Oh yeah, I want your advice," and that's fine. Like, to some extent, you want the guy who looks like he could lift a mountain to give you your advice. But I just want to add a note of caution. Two things. For one, if you're hesitant to go talk to that guy, don't be. He's probably the nicest guy in the gym.
Yeah.
And he will give you, all his advice. I'm just saying, don't necessarily take it word for word. And at the end of the day, you don't know how someone got to where they are.
Yeah.
And you don't know how someone looks. Tom Landry, I don't know if Tom Landry ever played football, but he's one of the greatest coaches of all time. And so judging what someone knows by the look isn't necessarily the way to go. Judge it by the content. To get a little MLKE on MLK Day.
Perfect.
We're recording on the 20th right now. Yeah. And so I also was just, picking up so much information. And it was in this time, I was like 24 when I ran across the 3 rules. It was posted on a random bodybuilding.com forum post. And this guy basically said this. I think he said it in a different way. If I can find that posting, I'll post it and I'll link you to it. There's going to be a ton of links in this in this piece, but it was very simple. He didn't waste time. He was just like, these are only 3 things you need to do, to the point where this guy was saying that and I believed him, that he would have a protein shake a day, 4 scoops, gave him about 100 grams. And he was a smaller guy. I think he was like 5'8", 5'10". And so he only needed probably like 150, 160 grams of protein. And so 100 grams was met just through his protein shake that he said he would sip throughout the day. I don't know why I remember this so well, but it's always stuck with me. And for the other, whatever, let's say 1,000 calories that he had to burn, or 1,400, he would go to Burger King and eat the rest of those calories at Burger King. And he would have 1 meal a day.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
He was like, that's what made me happy. That's what made this sustainable. I could never do that. Like, I would be miserable. But I think it's hilarious that, and he would show his before and after pictures and let you see what he's working on right now. And it was just one of those simply flooring things where you're like, man, it's not more complicated than that. It blew me away. And so throughout the years, I've done this. I was in a bulking phase whenever I came across the rules 15 years ago, and I bulked. If you want to call it that, I got big because I ate a lot, and I was working on protein, but I didn't take the best tactic. And so I looked up and I was like, okay, I'm at 230 now. So let's work on that. And so eventually I was like 28 when I finally started cutting, and I dropped 30 pounds doing this, but I also did so much more. I was working out like 10, 12 times a week. I would lift 3 times a week.
Whoa.
And then I would do, on my weightlifting days, this was when we were down at the 6th and Congress office. I would, for my lunch break, go run. I'd go do cardio for half an hour. I hadn't committed to the no cardio mindset yet. So
you're still having to do that.
Yeah. So I'd go do cardio, and then so that was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I was cardio and then weights in the evening after work. And then I would go do boxing. I'd box Tuesdays, Thursdays, sometimes Saturdays. Sometimes I'd also add in another cardio session before my boxing training. And so
before?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
And so it was just madness. Like, I was going crazy, and the results were coming really difficult, but I'll get into that later in the episode, because that leads to some surprising, interesting anecdotes, I suppose.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's kind of the general idea. And now,
so you never, when you were all of this working out that you were doing from the time you were 15 until 28, when you like found these rules or whatever, you were just were you on a plan?
Yeah, I mean, I would plan my workouts for sure. I never worked out the nutrition.
Yeah, you were just working out to basically like say that you're working out.
More or less.
Or were you trying for a specific result?
I mean, get jacked, right?
Yeah,
right. But without the nutrition side pinned down, I was never going to get there.
Yeah.
I didn't really realize that fully. Like I understood that to some degree. I just didn't know what it actually meant. And every time I would look up articles, it would be stuff like eat chicken and broccoli and rice and do that 3 times a day kind of stuff. It's like, man, that's
not sustainable.
No, especially not for me. I'm not a foodie, but I like food.
Yeah, right.
And not that. But I did that. Whenever I dropped the 30 pounds, that's basically what I was doing. I would roast chicken and vegetables every night, and that would be basically my dinner.
Yeah.
And I was severely unhappy.
Okay.
But let's dive deeper. So rule number 1, create a calorie deficit. This is also known as calories in, calories out. Now, we first kind of have to ask the question, what is a calorie? And so in the most basic sense, it's just how we measure energy for humans. Like you could call a calorie an energy unit, and that's basically the same thing. For me, I need like 2,300 energy units
per
day in order to sustain my current weight. And so this brings up an interesting idea, which is the first law of thermodynamics, and this is a simplified version of it, is energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So if you take in a calorie, you either use it or you hold on to it until you do. And your body stores this energy mostly in one of 2 ways, which is, as I said earlier, muscle or fat. That's it. I'm sorry, but you don't get to think, your body is not exempt from the laws of thermodynamics.
Right.
So if you're taking in energy, your body's really good at processing it and holding on to it.
Are we going to get to how does your body decide what to store it as?
No, probably not. I mean, it's really deep. So if you want to go into that, you're more than welcome to. But I'm just going to try to keep this fairly high level, because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that this is all new concepts to them.
Yeah.
So it's that weird balance of people who already know this shit versus people who are, just walking in the door.
Yeah.
But basically we have an equation, calories in versus calories out, what we eat versus what we use. It's very, very simple. I think it's easiest to start by understanding your maintenance needs, or what's called your TDEE, which stands for total daily energy expenditure, TDEE. We can just call it our maintenance calories. This is what your body needs to stay the same weight. And if you Google for a TDEE calculator to see a good idea of what you need, that's a great way to get started. Like for me, mine is about 2,300 calories per day, as I was saying a minute ago. So if I eat that 2,300 calories, I won't change weight by much, assuming I suddenly don't run a marathon like you're about to do.
Yeah.
Or a half like you just did. Yesterday. Jeez, bro.
Yeah.
And so it's important to make a distinction here. Total daily energy expenditure is different from your BMR, your basal metabolic rate. That's not a good caloric measurement. That's basically for, coma patients, people who
don't
move at all.
Yeah.
Their energy needs are very different. And I don't think anyone listening to this right now is in a coma. And if you are, wake up. You're welcome. Now get busy. And so TDE figures in that you're a person who at a minimum wakes up and stays conscious for most of the day. And I really mean that because I'm not a very active person. You might think, oh, but you don't do cardio, but you're a filmmaker. Maybe you're on your feet all day. I'm really, truly not. And I'm going to be super blatantly honest right now about how I spend most of my day. And you don't have to tell me it's not healthy. I already know that. But basically, I work from home from my bed 90% of my day. I'm not exaggerating. I can show you my steps on my non-workout days. And it's like sometimes 200 steps a day. if I'm not going to the gym or running around on set, which I'm only on set for a few days a month. So it's just usually not that big of a deal. And so whenever I'm looking up my TDE calculator, they're going to ask for a lot of things. They're asked for your age, your gender, how much you weigh, your height, your activity level, which for me is sedentary. And there's an option there for your body fat percentage if you know it, which if you don't and you want to, I'll tell you how to do that in a little bit later. And so, yeah, I'm very sedentary. I still was able to manage losing weight without, making cardio a thing. And so if you know your maintenance needs and you eat less than that, then you create an energy deficit in your body. My body needs 2,300 calories, but if I only eat 1,500 calories, then do I just stop living? No. My body will start to consume itself for energy, and this is what we want if we want to lose weight. You want your body to start using itself for energy. And of course, that's going to come with, being a little bit hungry and all that stuff. But if we were only concerned about losing weight, then this is the only rule we really need. You just create a calorie deficit, done. There's a lot of ways you can do that, and we'll get into that. But seriously, if you're, looking down the barrel and you're like, man, I'm 500 pounds and I need to get this under control now and for good.
You're not worried about muscle. You're worried about getting rid of fat.
Absolutely. Yeah. Then rule 1, just do that for a while.
Yeah.
No judgment here, man. I know people like this and it's okay. Like, do what you got to do, and we're all rooting for you. There's no reason that you can't get back to where you want to be. It's not beyond reach.
So you mentioned this guy earlier that he said, he'd have his protein shake and then he'd go and he'd eat
junk,
Burger King.
Yeah.
So is a calorie a calorie? So if I'm at a 2,000 calorie a day maintenance, right? Could I eat 1,500 calories in pizza and ice cream?
Absolutely. It would still work. You would not be happy.
No, I would be miserable. Because I could eat 1.5 pieces of pizza and 3 scoops of ice cream and I'm done.
Done for the day.
It. Yeah.
It's a miserable way to go. I just wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Because from the standpoint of energy maintenance and calorie deficits, calorie is a calorie. Now, I don't think you'll be your healthiest. I don't think you'll be mentally as strong. And I think by going through this process, you will gravitate towards the healthier things. I don't think there's a lot of ways to get around that unless you really are just the guy who doesn't mind waiting until 9 p.m. at night,
right,
and gorging on 1,200 calories.
Well, you could
garbage.
Eat, and you could eat, 2 pieces of pizza, or you could eat cucumbers and carrots all day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Literally.
I'm really hungry and grab some carrots, whatever satisfies you. I feel like I'm a very tactile person.
Mm-hmm.
And so eating something that's squishy is not nearly as satisfying for me as eating something that's crunchy. And so when I was doing this with you, when you first told me about this, I would do stuff like that. I would eat, crackers, and
it's satisfying, right? Just to have something.
Yeah. Like a handful of nuts or something
to chew on.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll just throw this out there right now. There are so many things you can cook that are delicious and low calorie and give you enough protein, that I'm looking at 45 recipes that I made that I'm posting on the site that you can just go and look and use them as your inspiration to spin off and create your own idea. Like, Wes used 78 pounds of chicken. I don't want to do that. I want a quarter of a pound. That's fine. Manipulate it to your taste. The point isn't, that I'm a chef, because I'm super not. The point is, anybody can do this, and there's millions of ways to go about approaching it that are very satisfying, and will leave you feeling like your day is better for it, not worse for it.
Okay. I don't want to derail it.
Okay.
Keep going. Yeah.
So with the same logic, the idea of calories in versus calories out, you can see how easy it is to gain weight and keep it on. Think of 1 pound of fat. Okay. Now this averages to be about 3,500 calories worth. for 1 pound of fat. Now that's an average. It's not literal. I think I've read that pound of fat can be as few as like 3,200 calories, and it can be as much as like 4,000 calories. And so we use 3,500 as a really strong average. And if anybody has any research or links that better, can elucidate us on that, then great, send it over. But okay, so 3,500 calories means, and that's a lot, right?
Yeah.
You can gain 1 pound of fat by eating 3,500 calories. How difficult is that? Well, let's say you're like me and haven't been drinking coffee most of your life. Like I am very sensitive to stimulants. And I finally got into it. I finally figured it out. And this is one of those things that's really helped me deal with like depression. Like, okay, now I have energy to do stuff. And so
Welcome to the world, my friend.
Basically, I get it now.
Yeah.
This is how y'all stare down the abyss every day.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Oh, yeah. The abyss of the day. I like it.
And so I don't want to drink it black. That's not my style. I want a little coffee creamer. You would be surprised how much calories in coffee creamer, especially if you pour it in the way I do.
You're not drinking coffee.
I'm not. I'm drinking milk with coffee.
Yes.
And so it's pretty calorie dense though. And on a conservative level, let's say you pour about 100 calories worth of creamer into your coffee, which I really think is very conservative. If you look on the back, those things are like 35 to 50 calories per tablespoon.
Yeah.
Now, no, ain't nobody pouring 1 tablespoon in their coffee. That ain't nothing. So 100 calories per day over the course of a month is about 1 pound of fat. That's just 100 calories. So that's a pound a month. And you look up over the course of 1 year, that's an extra 10 to 12 pounds of fat you've put on. Your weight just creeps up. I don't think any of us, other than in December, look up and say, man, I put on 5 pounds this month. That doesn't really happen.
Yeah.
We just kind of slowly creep up. And that's how. And again, that's a conservative estimate of 100 calories. If you switch jobs or you start trying out a new snack or the holidays hit, over the years, we just slowly add more and more weight because we are much more likely to consistently overeat calories than we are to consistently create a calorie deficit. We respond to hunger, and you'll probably be hungry while in a deficit. So you're probably not going to hang out there for very long.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this is why you may have failed to lose weight. You just didn't create a calorie deficit. You're not breaking the laws of the universe, I promise. You're just either eating too much or you're not burning it off enough. And that's really the only options you get. You can stop eating as much, or you can just burn more off.
Yeah.
And it's so much harder. I'm jumping the gun here, but it's so much harder to burn 100 calories than it is to just not eat them. Like,
oh wow,
that is infinitely easier.
If you take anything away from this, take that away. It is so much harder to burn 100 calories than to not eat them. That is brilliant. Brilliant thing to say.
It's so simple.
Yeah.
And so if you said, man, I've tried this and it didn't work, it's because of only one of two reasons. Either you're overestimating how much you're burning, or you're underestimating how much you're eating. It's probably the former. You're probably not really calculating very well how much you're taking in. Labels, are there to guide you, and I'll get into some of my tools, but you'd be surprised how off some of these labels are, especially if you go out to eat. Restaurants, and this is my own theory, restaurants probably underestimate their calorie counts on their menus, the ones that actually make them, because for one, they don't want you to feel guilty about what you're about to eat. And then as someone who's there in person and a server who's looking to be tipped, they're probably going to serve you more than to give you your money's worth, so to speak. By contrast, manufacturers, when you're buying stuff off the shelf, tend to not give you enough. There's probably some legal law in there that's redundant. Illegal law. There's probably some law.
Illegal laws.
There's some regulation that says you need to, for truth in advertising or whatever, labeling, then you need to be within a certain percentage of whatever you're claiming is inside this box. And I get it, but I weigh my food sometimes, and just out of curiosity, like, oh, this can of tuna says there's whatever, ounce and a half. And it's like 1 ounce, or it's like 80% there, 70% there of what they're claiming is actually there. And every rare once in a while, like I bought some beef jerky and it's like three servings in here. And I weighed it and I was like, man, there's like an extra third of a serving in here. That's unusual, especially for jerky. That's expensive stuff.
Yeah.
You don't normally run across that, which is a weird thing to nerd about.
Not for you.
Not for me. So that would be the only way, because again, the law of thermodynamics really states that you can't just take a calorie and then suddenly it stays on forever, despite creating a deficit. Your body just really doesn't function that way. And I can hear some of you, yelling at me right now, and I'll get to it in a second. Just hold on. And so how do you create a calorie deficit? The simple way is to eat less. If you create a deficit of 500 to 1,000 calories per day, then you will lose 1 to 2 pounds per week on average. The other option is you could exercise more, and you can look to burn 500 to 1,000 calories per day, and you will lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. And so the emphasis really is on calories in, calories out, not necessarily on the exercise. Do whatever is going to make you happiest. If you're like Todd and you love, how many miles did you run last week, Todd?
48, 49.
Weirdo.
I'm training for a marathon, man.
So crazy.
Well, it's normally not like that when I'm not training for a marathon. But.
Yeah, well, normally it's 20 or 30 miles, whatever.
Yeah.
So, I can see.
Whatever.
And so if you're not like Todd and you don't enjoy all of that,
Yeah.
I ran one with you and that was it. I'm finished.
One marathon. Yes, that was my first marathon ever.
Man, and I appreciate you waiting for me, by the way.
It was awesome.
Really cool.
It was awesome.
It was really cool to cross the line with you.
Yeah.
But if you don't enjoy that stuff like me, then just work on the diet side. There are minimum caloric needs. I don't want to encourage people to start going crazy. Don't try to go to 500 calories. The recommended minimum for guys is 1,500 calories minimum per day. The minimum recommendation for women is 1,200 calories. And yes, all of this applies to men and women. This isn't just me speaking for guys, and this only applies to guys. We'll get into weightlifting in women in a bit. It's you've probably been misled, or you're holding on to some myths with that. I'll try to remember. I didn't put it in my notes, unfortunately. I keep thinking about it without writing it. But you want to get those minimums in. Try not to go below that too much or too often, just because it can create issues. I don't want to start being alarmist here, but if you do eat too little for too long, you can start creating issues like hair loss, among other things. It's just not great. So really try to aim to get your minimum in, and consult your doctor, of course, if you have any questions about if that should be adjusted for whatever your particular conditions are. Let that just be.
This is a long-term thing. You have to be in it for the journey, right? So if you're wanting to lose, 10 pounds a week, don't do that. Because that requires you not eating at all.
Yeah.
And I mean, you need calories not just to maintain weight, but for brain function and for brain function.
That's a good one. I'll say it twice.
That's a winner right there. I know that I'll just say this, and I'll be quiet again. I know that there's plenty of people out there that are like, I really need to lose weight now. And I get that, but it probably took you a while to gain it.
Yeah.
Imagine how long it took you, and it's way easier to gain weight than it is to lose. But if you imagine gaining 2 pounds a week for 10 weeks, right? You gain 20 pounds. Now imagine losing 2 pounds a week. You can do that. You can do that in the same amount of time, but it takes 10 weeks to do that. So you can't just say, I want to lose 20 pounds in a week. It has to be a long-term goal, and you have to like stay on this particular path. It has to be a mindset. You can't just be like I'm going to do this. And then when I hit that goal, then I'm just going to go off the rails. Like, yeah.
That's why I
find a way to
these
like it.
7-day, 14-day, and even to some extent 30-day diets really bother me, is because most of the people that they're targeting have needs that are far beyond a 30-day fix. Like, I can do now, after having gone through this, a 30-day fix can do a lot for me, but I'm no longer 30 pounds overweight beyond where I want to be. And so, yes, everything you just said is so on point and such a good comment. Like, be thinking about the long term. But let's go into metabolism myths. So, just to put it out there, your metabolism's fine. You haven't damaged it. I know there's a lot of worry about that. There's so much talk. It's almost a myth in itself, metabolism. For one, metabolism doesn't really slow down or speed up. It's really kind of a catch-all idea of the way your body goes about managing your energy. It's how, it determines how much energy you need and how to break down your food to metabolize it for energy. So it's just really this basic idea that your body is responding to your energy needs. And if you're sedentary like I am, your needs aren't very much. If you're very active and you have what's called a NEAT, or non-exercise, I forget what it means. It's basically all the fidgeting, which I do have that. It's bothered many people. I don't do it on purpose. I'm not nervous. I fidget, like I bounce my leg a lot, stuff like that. That's called NEAT. And so you burn a little bit of extra calories through that stuff. But generally, the metabolism, you should just stop thinking about it. It's fine. There was a study recently done. I'll link this in the show notes, where they were curious to see the different metabolisms around the world. And so they kind of looked at Europe and they looked at America, and they compared it against this sub-Saharan African tribe, I think it was in Kenya, that was hunter-gatherers still. And that was just their lifestyle. And with the idea, thinking that if anybody has higher energy needs and their metabolism is shifted, it would be a group like that for generations has been hunter-gathering. And what they found was, no, their metabolism's the same as the couch potato in my house, which is me.
Which is you.
and anybody else. So if you feel like you're like some helpless cause, you're not. You're fine. I promise you. Don't assume you're an outlier. Like, maybe there's like 1 in 100 million that has some issue that really is just this crazy one-off thing. Don't assume that's you. Don't assume you're the outlier. You're not that special. Assume you're normal. And I mean this in the best way possible.
You're not that special.
You're not that special. And for emphasis on this, and before anybody's like, well, what would you know about it? I have a low thyroid. I'm hypothyroidic. I have hypothyroidism. I take the medication levothyroxine every morning, 88 micrograms, and I have to wait an hour before I eat anything every single day. But what I really want to point out here is I didn't know that I had a low thyroid until after I dropped that 30 pounds, whenever I was 28. It took me 6 months of killing myself in order to drop those 30 pounds. And like 6 months later, I found out that I had a low thyroid. I'm like, man, that medication would have made this process a whole lot easier. But I still managed to drop a ton of weight. I just didn't know why it was so difficult,
so hard,
and
right?
So erratic. Like the whole process was very erratic and weird. And I just didn't understand it. So if you find yourself thinking that maybe there's something wrong, go get checked up. Dum-dum. What are you doing?
There might be something wrong.
There might be something there. But go get it. Like, for most things, there's some kind of medication. There are some random things that make things much more difficult. A friend of ours has PMDD. It's a thing with PMS that makes life incredibly difficult for her, especially whenever she's trying to lose weight. But there's still solutions. There's still ways to achieve your goals. Don't just assume that because you have an issue that you're beyond repair. You're not. You're fine. I promise. Everything's going to be okay. Get a doctor's opinion and get to work. Like there's no reason you can't do it. Again, like I have my issues too, and we deal with it.
Yeah.
This is the only life we get. And so let's touch on some things that don't really matter while we're on the subject of
Okay.
myths and stuff that, whatever. So some of these things are technically true, but practically useless. Something like meal timing and frequency. There's this old idea of, well, if you eat smaller meals, 6 small meals throughout the day, it'll rev up your metabolism. That's technically true, but really meaningless. And so it was one of these studies where they said, oh man, every time they eat, their metabolism spikes. And so the more frequently you eat, the more your metabolism will stay revved up. True, because you've ate, your body's now metabolizing all of that and breaking it down for energy and storage and use and whatever. But you know what? If you were to take those same meals and break them into 2 meals, or combine them, I should say, instead of you eat, 1,000 calories spread over 6 meals, now you eat 1,000 calories over 2 meals. You get a correspondingly bigger hike in your metabolism. Like it's going to be the exact same calorie burn as it would if you ate in 6 different meals. So it's not, those kinds of things aren't impacting the bottom line. So whenever you think of, I'm going to trick my metabolism, you're not. You just can't. It doesn't really work that way. The only thing that you should be considering is, will eating 6 small meals make my day better for me and make this whole process more sustainable? That's the only thing that really matters.
What about eating late at night?
Oh, it doesn't. I eat so late every single night. Every single night I would have, for like the first 4 months, my late night snack, definitely every night, was a bowl of yogurt with fruit and a scoop of protein. I would mix in the protein into this flavorless yogurt, and it tasted amazing. That's like my favorite thing in the world. And then I would cut up like a banana, full banana, and then half a cup of blueberries, and I would eat that, and then immediately fall asleep. That's big for me. I can be hungry in the day. I'm not a hangry kind of person. Like I don't mind being hungry for the majority of the day. I refuse. I cannot fall asleep on a hungry stomach though. That's absolute misery for me. It doesn't work. So it's more about, really?
Oh God. Yeah.
It's the worst, right?
If I'm hungry, I eat, man.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so, meal timing, frequency, it doesn't matter for your calories' sake. It only really matters for your sustainability and what makes you personally happy. Things that don't really matter either, how many carbs or fats you're eating. Like as long as I got my protein in, I would just eat whatever else I don't care. Like I wasn't counting my carbs or my fats. Literally 100%. I would eat the whole egg multiple times a day. Like it's all the fat, all the carbs. Like as long as I hit my protein, I literally just don't care. And another thing, drinking water first thing in the morning. People think, oh, well, if you drink water, it'll get your metabolism. I guess like you're not going to end up burning more calories today because you had a glass of water at 8 a.m. It's just not happening. There's this idea of the fat burning zone. That's the thing that's technically true, but practically useless. Like you may be technically burning fat when you're in whatever, working out, let's just say. But the thing is, your body replenishes what it uses unless you're in a deficit. Like your body is fully capable of remembering, I had a pound of fat earlier today. Let's refill that with these new calories that are, at maintenance or more than. So don't feel like you need to target the fat burning zone or anything like it. Doesn't matter. you know what? Surprisingly, I don't think really matters either is your age. Not as much as people think. I don't think your calorie maintenance needs really start diving until much later in life than you would probably assume.
Yeah.
Like
We just get lazy.
we get lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally it. But like if I run a calculation like me now versus me whenever I was 28, like 28 me versus 38 or 39 me, same thing. I had the same calorie needs based on our finest estimations and probably based on my experience.
Yeah.
And so age, you're probably fine. You're not off the rails. It's not as bad as you think. Everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, I think that the bigger thing that happens, or the thing that definitely does happen, is that like men and women, they retain fat in certain areas of your body
Differently,
right?
for sure.
Differently, and I feel like it's just more noticeable. The pound goes right where it goes instead of like all over. It's gonna go to that spot, right? Instead of like a little bit in your arms or a little bit in your legs. But guys, it's gonna go to your gut, and women, it's gonna go to your hips. Like it's just what it is the older that you get. But that being said, this process, right, can work for both.
Oh yeah.
My father-in-law is 70, and the guy
he's
is
goals.
in as good a shape as me.
He's current
unreal.
Goals.
Yeah,
he's 70.
He is current goals,
and I'm 39 now, and I'm like, can I look like that?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not.
And so yes, absolutely, it can work whether guy, girl, whatever. You'll lose the weight in those places that you're worried about, especially if you're following all three rules. And so while we're here on the whole myths and stuff, let's touch on detoxes and juice cleanse diets. This is really hard to say because these things are not good in terms of what they're vaguely promising to accomplish. And I know most people have probably tried a detox or a juice cleanse. And the thing you really need to understand about detoxing, quote unquote, is your body already has built-in toxin filters. Your lungs, your kidneys, your liver. Like if those things start failing, I promise paprika and lemon juice will not fix the issue. I absolutely promise. And I've never seen any of these, sites or people who are selling whatever the books. They don't tell you exactly what they're supposed to be detoxing anyway. But the most important thing is your body already has these toxin filters that are hopefully perfectly working and you're treating them well. The one thing I will say that maybe you can make a case for is not necessarily, if you want to call it a detox, would be to like give your liver a break if you drink a lot. Like maybe take a month or two off and give your liver a break there. That I would call that a detox. If you want to detox, do that. But otherwise, if you're fine if you're not taking a lot of drugs or alcohol or whatever, then the detox isn't going to really do anything. The result you're seeing, especially those 7-day cleanses, is kind of a fake weight loss because it's water weight. Whenever you eat, your body begins to take in water in order to help break down and process the food in your system. And so whenever you're cutting calories out, suddenly, and that process can take several days. Like it can take 2, 3, maybe sometimes up to a week. I don't know, depending on what you're eating. I'll link y'all to a really great post by, I think it was a nurse. I forget who it was. Someone posted from the medical community, I'll say, that the whole process of the way your body processes food and what water weight is. And so the thing is, whenever you start reducing calories, and that's basically what you're doing on these juice cleanses, is you're no longer eating, right? You're not really taking in any calories anymore. Then you're shedding all the waste in your system along with the water that was processing it. And so you drop all this weight, but it's not real weight. It's not like you dropped, 7 pounds of fat.
Because you're going to drink it. You're going to drink and put it right back in.
Yeah. As soon as you have your first meal, then your second and your third, your body is going to pull all that water and all that stuff is going to rebuild up into your system again.
I go out on long rides, I'll lose 8 pounds. Whoa. Yeah.
That's wild.
After an Ironman, I'll lose more. Yeah. I mean, it's not good. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously. And you try to drink a lot, but that means nothing.
So
it means
wild.
nothing because at the moment I come in, I'm so hungry. I just basically eat 8 pounds of food and drink 8 pounds of water. And then I'm right back to where I was.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would be surprised. Like I would be curious, how much of that is probably fat. I mean, after a certain point, you're probably chewing into, a good amount of fat store. I remember watching this documentary about a guy who was trying to swim, some British channel. And they showed a kind of the before and after, and it was, I don't know, several hours of swimming. And by the end of it, they showed that, he lost, 4 or 5 pounds of fat just as his body trying to find energy to keep going.
Yeah. I mean, so what we're talking about is like a different kind of thing.
Slightly.
Like we're talking about training for like endurance. And the whole point of training for endurance is to teach your body to burn fat rather than glycogen. So, because you only have a certain amount of glycogen that you can store. Glycogen is like carbs. And the human body can only store up to about 2 hours of carbs for an extended activity, which is why there's the wall when you run a marathon. So what you do is you train up to a certain heart rate. And then anything over that heart rate, then you start tapping into glycogen. But anything below that heart rate, you're burning fat. So yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
That's so cool.
And I'm assuming that, I know, right? It's cool. But I'm assuming that a lot of people listening or watching or whatever don't do what I do.
Yeah.
Or want to or have any desire to. Because that's a whole nother kind of conversation. We're talking about just general burning, losing weight, burning fat through fat burn.
Yeah. And especially through like juice cleansing or whatever, like as you're drinking water, and I don't know what they drink. It's like some kind of water, lemon juice,
like
concoction.
Yeah. Some kind of spicy, I don't know.
Yeah. And so whenever you're those, not a lot of calories, if any, in those juice cleanses, you're getting rid of all this non-fat, not maybe a little bit of muscle, I don't know, but your body is probably consuming itself a little bit for energy. And so to some extent, I'm sure you'll lose a little bit of weight, but because of your habits, you're not really going to see a lot of long-term benefit of that, because that's not a long-term plan.
Yeah.
And so, and that's kind of the interesting thing too, just going off of another small tangent, is whenever I start my first week of reducing calories is always kind of crazy because of that very thing, because of dropping the water weight and waste in my system that's been built up from eating too much garbage or just even too much food. Like it could be perfectly healthy food and you're still carrying around a lot of that weight. And so that first week, you're going to see an abnormally large drop in your weight. That is not your standard. Like my first week, I dropped 7 pounds, and that wasn't. It was practically meaningless in the grand scheme of my goal, because I knew like a good 5 or 6 of that wasn't fat. It was just water and water retention. But that's also good to know, because sometimes, on this process, you might go on a binge. Maybe you go on a vacation, or you go to a office party and you have, a couple snacks, and you wake up the next day and you're like, oh, I'm 3 pounds more than I was yesterday. And you're fine, because most of that's water.
Yeah.
I promise you didn't manage to eat whatever that is, like 10,000 calories over your maintenance.
Yeah, right.
Like, that's not how that's
you might
going to go
feel
down.
fat, but it's probably water, and it's probably the food you haven't pooped out yet.
Yep. That's all it is.
Right. Yeah.
And that's fine. And so with that in mind,
You're talking about poop?
Nope, not anymore.
Okay.
But what does clean eating mean? Like, what is that? What does it even mean? it's kind of a meaningless phrase, I think, just because someone's idea of a healthy breakfast, and we all have these kind of generic ideas and images that pop up when we think about clean eating. But someone's idea of a healthy breakfast could be like a banana, orange juice, almond butter on wheat bread. Like that all sounds like really healthy stuff, but that's going to combine to be like 500, 600 calories. And so that's calorically dense. And even though it sounds healthy and maybe it's giving your body a lot of good nutrients, going back to what you said earlier, it's all about what your goal is. And if your goal is to lose fat or to lose weight, then that may not be a healthy breakfast for you right now.
Right.
That might not be, ideal. And so with that in mind, the diets can work with pretty much any style of eating. So whether you're paleo or keto or Atkins, Whole30, what have you, it all works. It's all fine. Like the only real question is, are you happy eating that way? Is that, the kind of food choices that you enjoy? And does it make you feel good, throughout the day, or at least when you eat it, like at a minimum? That's the only real question. All those things work and don't work at the same time. Because again, you can eat paleo all you want, or you can eat keto all you want. But if you're not creating a calorie deficit, then the rule still applies. Like you don't get to lose weight just because you're eating a particular type of food. And I think a lot of success, switching to a new diet is because you don't know what you can eat. So you probably eat stricter at first, and it's kind of a new challenge. You probably, through switching your diet from what you're used to, creating an energy deficit just by virtue of I'm no longer eating the junk that I was using. And so even someone switching from keto to paleo would probably see a benefit just from the mindset and the food choices suddenly being radically different. But whenever you stay on one of these long enough, you begin to find these little snacks that are probably a little more calorically dense, a little less, healthier. And the calories just kind of creep back up again. I would imagine anyway. I've never done any of those. Whole30 I did for a month, which it was just, I dropped like 6 pounds of water weight, and it was right there whenever I returned.
Anything that has a number of days in its name is just garbage. Like stay away from it.
Yeah. The one thing I really liked about Whole30 was it showed me that I really don't care if I'm not eating bread, which is a weird thing.
Oh, you poor human.
Yeah. Like I stopped eating bread and rice, and I was like, you know what? I'm kind of fine with that. And so for like a good 1.5 2 years, I really didn't need any, other than if I went to like get a burger or somewhere out to eat. But whenever it came to buying groceries, and most of my life I've cooked for myself. Like I'm not a very crazy eater. I never have been. From my youth, I was more out of poverty, but and well, as an adult, it's more out of poverty.
Not much change.
Not much has changed. But yeah, so that was kind of the one thing. But otherwise, I was like, okay, that's fine. But it all works. The only question is, what is sustainable for you? And I have a great article from examine.com. If you've never been to Examine, they do a great job of kind of analyzing literature and research studies to kind of make it into a cohesive idea of a supplement and the effects of a supplement or the effects of a type of diet or yada yada. They're really good. They do what I would call a little bit of meta-analysis and kind of accumulating all the researches, studies that are out there in order to give you a good idea of what it all means and what it all kind of combines to say, and for the good and the bad. They don't have a big bend towards anything. They're just like, hey, here's the data. Not that they don't have things to sell, but none of that. All the best information is free on that site.
Yeah.
And so it's a really great site. So I'll get into a little bit later, like the idea of meal prepping. But for now, I want to jump into rule 2, deep dive into resistance training, weights. This will be short. The next 2 and 3 will be really short because I think all the emphasis should really be on the calorie deficit and calories in, calories out. But I want to start with an old, I don't know what to call it. It's not a metaphor, whatever. There's this story, a fallacy, that there's this French philosopher named Frederick Bastiat, and he created this idea of the broken window fallacy. And he was a philosopher from like the mid 1850s, and he was trying to give you the idea of the seen versus the unseen. And I'll give you a quick idea. The broken window fallacy is this idea that a little kid throws a brick through a baker's window. The window breaks, and now everyone's standing around outside and saying, he did something bad. But at least now the window maker will have a job. He has an opportunity to come and repair this. So yay, there's an economic stimulus that was created here. And Bastiat's like, no. But what you're not seeing is where that money could have went. Instead of repairing something that was broken, he could have spent that money on new shoes. And so whereas you're looking at the repair as a good thing, what you're missing is the world is now short one new pair of shoes. And so we haven't gained anything. Instead, there's been a loss there that should ideally never have taken place. And the reason I'm bringing that up is it's very easy to look at a before and after picture and say that, oh man, that guy got jacked. Like you might look at my before and after picture, and God help you if you think this, and say, oh man, he got ripped. It's like, no, in fact, I lost muscle. There's the unseen versus the seen there is deceptive in all of those before and after pictures, because the only thing you're missing is the fat. All I did was lose the fat, and now it's revealed my muscles. I didn't get more muscular. I didn't. The fat just got removed and revealed what it was there. It was there all along.
like Michelangelo carving away the stone. Yeah. No, it's in the stone. I just removed the rest of it.
And so when it comes to body types and physique, you only get two things. You get muscle and you get fat. There is no toned versus ripped. There's this kind of idea I hear a lot in women's circles that, I just want to tone up. Well, the only two things you get to play with are how much muscle you have and how much fat you have. So there's only varying levels of fat and muscle. If you want to look toned, then, lose a little bit of fat, gain a little bit of muscle, but not too much fat and not too much muscle. And now you look toned. Like that's all we're really talking about here. And so it's important also to point out that an exercise cannot add definition to a body part. You need lower body fat or a bigger muscle. And that's really all there is, because body fat loss is systemic. It's not targeted, right? If you do crunches or sit-ups, you're not burning stomach fat. And there's some minor research that says on a very, very microcosmic scale, you do burn a little belly fat. Like that's so meaningless in practice. Whereas muscle is localized. That's why you can see guys with big upper bodies and no legs because they skip leg day or whatever the trope is going to be. Whereas you can target your muscles, you can't target your fat. Fat is systemic. And it goes back to what you said earlier, like women store usually fat on their hips, guys store it in their stomach. And I'm sure there's great.
And those are the last places where they come off.
Yeah,
usually,
man. It sucks.
Yeah.
But if you think about fat like a pool of water, you have a shallow end and a deep end in a pool of water. Well, if you scoop a bucket of water out, you don't get to choose to take it from the deep end. It's just evenly distributed. Right. And that's how your fat works. It'll come off wherever it decides to come off, generally, mostly evenly. But over time, it'll come off from everywhere. You'll get, your face gains and you'll lean out.
Face gains.
Oh
my God.
It's a thing, man.
Don't ever say that again, please.
And so lifting weights is a great signal to your body that you need the muscle. So whenever you create an energy deficit, your body is more likely to use fat for energy, because the signal is it's rebuilding, it's recuperating. And so if we need that, then I need the energy to come from somewhere. So therefore, we're going to use the fat. And that's a really important signal. And so whether you want to lift weights, machines are fine. Free weights are fine. Anything that allows you to increase the resistance is what's ideal. And this is what sets weight training apart from like cardio. There's the idea of progressive overload, which may or may not be an abused phrase at this point. But the idea, generally speaking, is whatever you did last week, either do one more rep or two more reps, or add a little bit of weight and do, however many reps you can. I don't want to get more complicated than that at this point. I'll go more into my workouts here in a second, but if you're new to the gym and free weights intimidate you, you don't know what you're doing, that's fine. The machines work.
Yeah.
Like they're not what a lot of bodybuilders do because they're so strong and they have more training and for a whole host of reasons, but there's nothing wrong with the machines. They're a great way to warm up and get used to it. There's no reason that you can't hire a trainer if you want to learn more technique and have someone craft a weightlifting plan for you. I wasn't sure if I was going to get into trainers or not, personal trainers. I've only used like once or twice in my life hired a personal trainer. Whenever you and I hired one to learn how to use kettlebells, and that was fun. I really enjoyed that. I learned a new skill set, and for me, that's about the extent of my idea for hiring trainers. If I'm like, I need work on this specific thing, like my deep squat right now is my hips aren't opening up enough, and my form is just going to crap. Like that would be something I would want to hire a trainer for to help me work those kinks out. But the rub, and I don't think it's trainer's fault. I think it's the client's fault. To be perfectly honest, is with trainers, they usually don't craft something to help you hit like hypertrophy. They just kind of make you tired and make you feel like you had a good workout.
Yeah.
And that's depressing. Like that's not really how you're going to see your progress. But I don't think they do that not because they don't know what they're doing. I think they do that because that's what clients want. And maybe in some gyms, and I think my gym is probably an exception, I think our trainers know exactly what they're doing, and they're bringing in people and showing them how to lift weights and creating badass workout programs for them. Shout out to Inez and Ignite Fitness.
Yeah, man.
You're definitely going to be in the show notes. And if you want to see the gym that I love, that I've been at for probably 10 years now.
Yeah.
God.
Jeez.
Because she bought up SCAC, and we were at SCAC back in 2008.
Oh my God.
That's insane. That's so crazy. I'm so glad she bought it though, man. It was a great gym before, but now it's like an amazing gym.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah. And so, like machines are fine though. And so don't be afraid to hire a trainer. Just make sure, but don't hire just one. I would say if you're really new to this, maybe try like 4 or 5 different trainers. See for one who you click with, but also get an idea of the different types of training programs they're going to throw out at you. Maybe if someone has a link to an article, or if someone wants to write one up on best way to find a good trainer that is going to help you with learning how to lift weights and not just put you on a treadmill for 10 minutes while they check their iPhone.
Yeah.
Like, let's do that. I'm more than happy to link someone if you have some tips on finding a good trainer. But rule 3. So that's basically it. I'll get into a little bit more of working out and lifting weights here in a second. But protein intake, rule number 3 of 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. When we lift weights, we break down our muscles. So even though you're getting that signal to your body that, hey, we need the muscle, you also need to take in the protein to send the signal that you want it to recover as well. The protein is there. The amino acids are all there to help you recover and grow stronger. And like I said earlier, I like 1 gram per pound of lean body mass as opposed to the 0.82 grams per pound of total weight. Whatever, like pick your poison. I think if you're a guy, you're probably 150 grams is probably going to be generally good enough. Yeah. I don't want to overshoot on this point. My protein goal is 160 grams per day. But to be honest, I often do 200 grams and sometimes more depending on the day and what I'm liking to eat that particular day. The nice thing about protein is it has, for one, there's 2 great things. One, the satiety of protein is much higher than carbs or fat. That feeling of being full, so much higher. So much better. But there's also and don't run away with this, but there's also a higher TEF, the thermogenic effect of food, which is to say how much energy your body uses in order to process the food. It's like 20% higher in protein than the other ones. But don't try to calculate for that. Like just the goal here, going back to what you said, Todd, like this is a long-term mindset. So the goal is to get going, throw away your first week, like use that as momentum. Man, I dropped 10 pounds this week. That's amazing. Maybe I'll drop 5 next week. Start slowing up to lose, if you don't like the 1 to 2 pounds, some people say 0.5% to 1% of total body weight. So if you're 300 pounds, losing 3 pounds a week probably isn't bad, but adjust. The idea is to, as you get going and see what you're doing in the gym and in your diet, then adjust to either, and this is why I like to use cardio as a polishing move, not as my first line of defense. Because once I start eating whatever my minimum calorie, like 1,500 calories is what I eat every day, then if I see that, man, I'm only losing 1.5 pounds a week over the last 2 or 3 weeks, now I can add in a little bit of cardio to get me back up to those 2 pounds. It's a good polishing move. I think it's way better as a polishing move than as a first go-to. And I would have done that if I wasn't so hell-bent on making my point. I would have done that in my 30 weeks, and I would have trimmed it from 30 weeks down to like 15.
Well, and it's also good to use on like recovery days.
Yeah.
And just to point out from my own experience, and let's just be clear, you don't gain muscle from lifting weights. You gain it from repair. You gain it in between. So the recovery is, and how you recover is really, that's what dictates how well your workout went. So you go in, you break down the muscle by working out. Say you do chest one day and you just destroy yourself, right? Great, cool. The first thing you have to do is get that protein in, because you have to tell your body it's okay. Now you can repair this. And it's just like anything. If you break a bone and it fixes and you heal that, you'll never break that bone in that same spot, most likely, because that bone is now stronger in that spot.
Wow.
So if you might break it again, but it'll be in a slightly different spot. And that's the point, is that you break muscle down to build it back up stronger, to repair stronger. And protein is absolutely necessary in that kind of thing, especially if you're lifting weights. For running, it's a little bit, or biking or whatever, it's a little bit different. I mean, yes, you need protein and stuff, but it's more cardiovascular, in a lot of ways than lifting weights is in general. But that's important to note. I don't think that, because when I first started lifting or working out, that never occurred to me. It was always like, I thought that the lifting was the thing that made my muscles grow. And then I could just go eat pizza right after or something. But no, there's a reason why you see these guys who, are in the gym and who look really good. They have this shake like immediately after. You have like a 20-minute window where you get the most out of whatever it is that you're putting in your body after you work out, right?
Well, even that, there's been recent research that says the window is probably closer to like 2 hours or 3 hours.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah. So now it might be a little different for you because you are an endurance trainer. So
I don't know.
You might intake glycogen much faster. So like a little protein and sugar will probably go a long way.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But yeah, so the window is pretty wide open. Certainly enough time to wait. For most of these, I honestly waited purposefully to take my protein shake for the 30 weeks. On average, I probably waited until I got home. I left it at home, so sometimes it would be an hour because I'd often stop by the store for groceries or whatever. And then just have my 1 or 2 scoops. But it's still important. I mean, get it in. I don't think you want to wait too much longer than that, because you want to help send the signal that, hey, we're recovering and blah blah blah. And so one thing to note is if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, plant proteins may have fewer amino acids and so may require a great amount of protein to help offset the protein quality. I don't want to dive into this whole game changers thing. There's just something to consider and research and make sure you're happy with your results there. And Anyway,
I use vegetarian
Do you?
protein,
Nice.
the Vega stuff.
yeah,
I love it.
I think that's a great way to supplement. Like especially if you're vegan or vegetarians, like use that to add in extra protein for, helping you get your numbers up.
Yeah.
That's huge. So we're really close, I promise. Still a lot of
Yeah,
topics,
right.
but this is winding down.
We'll see.
So predictability. This method gives you a really predictable outcome. Most diets are vague in their results. Like, for instance, if Google Maps said, you'll get there sometime today, that would not be very useful. I feel like that's what most diets are giving you. These 3 rules are the path, the most efficient route, I believe, but you determine how you execute them. The diet, the workout, shape that to your own taste, and that will keep this sustainable. And we'll also be able to say, man, okay, for me, I was looking at, I wanted to get down to 10% body fat. And I started at 24.5%. I was on the cusp of obesity. Wow. Like, that's outrageous. And for me. And so I was like, okay, I need to lose 15% body fat. Okay, how long is that going to take? And so I just was able to very quickly take a caliper reading and figure out, okay, here's how many pounds of fat that I have, and here's what it's going to take. Here's how many of those I have to lose in order to hit my goal. Now, the leaner you get, the harder it becomes to not lose muscle. And so, especially you get, I think, under 15%, it gets much more difficult. And the 3 rules, I think, become so much more important. I probably could have cheated pretty well that first 10%, but the last, and I got down to 11.4% at my lowest in that picture. And I'll get to why I didn't finish going to 10. But that became so much harder. I could feel my body fighting, if you want to call it that. It
wasn't natural.
Not
it wasn't
natural.
like a natural like okay, I'm in the groove, I'm feeling it.
No, because I've never been that lean in my life. Even in high school, I never had. I probably stayed around 13% body fat. Yeah. Like, you can see my abs okay, but I didn't have a nice clean 6-pack, and I'd never been below 12%. I guarantee. Yeah. And so getting that lean was something certainly new for my brain, and trying to adjust to that. And so I certainly got more miserable as the process wore on. But it becomes, again, what is your goal? Most of you out there probably don't really care if you get a 6-pack or not. You're just wanting to be healthy, and that's fine. If you want to set a goal of like 15 to 17% body fat, I think that's a very healthy goal. I think we've probably made it a little too easy and acceptable to be obese. I know that's not popular. It's not to say I think you should dislike yourself. I think you should love yourself no matter what you look like or what your circumstances are in life. You should love yourself and, have great mental health. But I think I would be utterly shocked if anybody would turn down Brad Pitt Fight Club body. Like, I wouldn't. Like, I'll take that, homie. Yeah. But I don't think any of us probably are. A lot of us out there are probably living our happiest life. And I will absolutely agree with the old sentiment that nothing tastes as good as being thin feels. Like, I remember whenever I hit my first pair of gold jeans, and a lot of us out there probably have old clothes that we want to fit into again someday. And it's like, man, someday I'm going to fit into that. I bought new ones a long time ago that I was like, yeah, I'll whenever I get there, that'll be fine. And I remember finally putting those jeans on. I was like, oh, snap, this is cool. And then I also remember when those jeans became too baggy. Like, when your gold jeans become too big for you, that's a really cool moment. And I would not take any amount of pizza, and I love pizza and ice cream, in the world to give those moments back. Yeah. I promise it's true. And if you just put in, and it's a lot of mental preparation, which we'll get to.
And it's not just about, just clarify, it's not just about being thin,
mm-hmm.
right? Like, thin or overweight or fat, however you want to say it, like, it's all beautiful, mm-hmm. and it's all relative.
Yeah.
It's not just about being thin. It's about having a goal, right, for yourself, a healthy goal, and putting the work in and putting the effort in and reaching that. right? That's the feeling you're talking about. And yes,
Yeah.
feeling fit is amazing, right? But it's all the work you did and all the sacrifice you made to actually, or in this case, it's not even necessarily sacrifice. It's just stick-to-itness.
Yeah,
You know?
totally.
It's just the day-to-day thing.
Absolutely. And just so that I'm on record here, if you are 300 pounds and you like being 300 pounds and you like, that's totally fine. I don't.
Yeah. Why are you listening still?
Yeah, for one.
Really?
But I also think that's totally fine. I think, life, this is the only life we get. I'm agnostic, but I'm also like libertarian. So like live however you want, bro. Like if you think a happier life for you is eating whatever you want and that brings you joy in life, then cool. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But again, why are you still listening to this?
Yeah.
You're a very curious person.
Yeah.
And so, that's one of the things I really love about this process is the predictability, is to be able to say, okay, here's whenever I'll be done with this process and I can call it a day, because I don't think anybody else gives you that. So diving into before and after stats, first of all, we kind of already touched on the dangers of before and after pics. But the thing is, a lot of these pics, you don't know how long, they took, how much they had to do, how much they lost. Sometimes there's lighting tricks. I wrote that show intro, like little top lighting. Man, there's so many advertisements that these dudes take before and afters like within an hour of each other because they go shave, that you overextend your gut in the before picture to kind of emphasize, I personally didn't do almost any of that. Almost. Like I never stuck my gut out in the before picture. And shout out to our buddy Joe and Heather, because I was in New Zealand whenever I took that picture. And to be completely honest, I was lighter there than my actual starting weight, because that was only halfway through my vacation. And I guarantee I ate a lot of ice cream on that trip. I was snacking like a madman. It was glorious. I had so much orange juice. I love orange juice. But it's super high in calories and you're just not getting that much out of it. It's sugar. It's just sugar.
That's awesome.
But yeah. And so, but I did do I flexed in my after picture. I think I'm going to post like all the progress pics, because after I didn't really take a good before picture because I was so depressed and miserable over what I was seeing in the mirror that I just couldn't bring myself to take a before picture. And I don't think I started taking them until like the 3rd week and then the 5th week. And then finally I was like, just do it. You jerk, start taking these. And then finally, I started taking them every week, and I'll post all those so that, you can all see them. But in my after picture, I am, flexing. And so that's what I look like, with the flexed stomach. I'm not flexing my chest. There's not anything there to flex. And for the record, I didn't work out my arms during the entire 30 weeks. Maybe like the last week or two, I finally, because I had some, and this will be in the injuries part, but I was having some elbow pain that's been around for a while. And I was like, let me just finally give this a rest. And
you
see
didn't
if
do
it
any
recovers.
arms?
No, I didn't do any arm work.
Why?
Because of the elbow pain.
Oh, right.
But why models? I just told you.
Gotcha.
And so really quick, let's touch on, I'll skip that. I was going to do this other thing. Recomping. So there's this idea in the fitness community that you can recomp. And technically speaking, if there can be a technically about recomping, it's the idea that you eat at maintenance and you gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. This happens. And people say they do it. I don't think it exists personally. I haven't seen it. People who say it works don't seem to practice it themselves. Like if you go and look up anybody who shows like, here's how you can recomp, they don't do it themselves. Everyone tends to do bulking and cutting cycles. And I really believe that if you could recomp, that's pretty much all you would ever see bodybuilders do. Like there would be very little reason to bulk. But even if, let's just pretend and say, it works to some degree. I it still sounds incredibly ineffective and inefficient. Like I can lose 7 or 8 pounds per month of fat, then gain 2 pounds of muscle per month. And how fast exactly is recomping? I think it comes down to an issue of predictability, which to me indicates a lack of coherent logic or science. I would be happy to take on $1,000 bet between anybody who says they can recomp faster than I can lose fat and build muscle. Like I have not seen any real evidence or studies that shows that you can really do this. The closest I've seen was there's this one study out there that showed that they were able to produce muscle growth even at a caloric deficit. And it just sounded so arduous and painstaking as to be practically worthless. Like if you have to go through these really extreme, protocols in order to induce this outcome, it just doesn't sound like anything anyone's going to ever really do in practice.
Yeah.
And so moving on, I'm just kind of pooing on recomping, I guess.
I'd never even heard of it.
Yeah, it's garbage. In my opinion, I'm more than happy to read your literature. Don't come at me, bro. Like, and so getting into like measurements and my favorite tools, I love spreadsheets. I love being able to kind of see week over week the progress I'm doing. I don't see any of this stuff out there. I'll see if I can create a blank spreadsheet to give everybody if you want to, follow along in a similar way. But there's tons of tools out there. There's like, I use Livestrong because they used to be one of our partners or our sister companies. We all worked under the same umbrella. And I remember whenever we started livestrong.com, and they started building out these tools, I immediately signed up and would send notes to the developers and like, hey, fix this, do this. I'm like, hey, can we get some more of this? That was ages ago, but I still use the website and the app on my phone. I think there's like MyFitnessPal is a really, really popular one. But there's easy ways to log your calories and to figure out what you're eating. The nice thing for me is I can look at my day or my week. If I'm doing a meal prep and I meal prep on Sunday, I already know how much calories are in all those meals. And I can already have a good idea of, okay, here's probably what I'm going to be eating Monday. I'm going to have my before and after protein shakes, and then I'm going to have my lunch, and then I'm going to have my dinner, and then I'm going to have a snack before bed. And that's my yogurt snack. That's my bedtime yogurt snack.
Your baby.
And it's very mentally soothing for me to be able to say, okay, how long can I hold out before I have that first meal? Okay, good. Now I still have, 3 more meals or whatever my day looks like that day. And so it's just, instead of winging it from day to day, and I think that's stressful. I think the idea of trying to do it on the fly is very stressful, but having an app that tells you, here's where you're at for the day. Yeah. And for me, the spreadsheet says, I just kind of line it up week by week. Okay, over the next 10 weeks, Sunday through Saturday, I can calculate, here's how many calories I should be at for the week, and here's how many I did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Oh, I went 500 calories crazy. So let me just see if I can go 50 calories below my normal goal and just kind of even it out a little bit. Yeah, mitigate it a little bit. And so that tells me, and then on my spreadsheet I also have like my weekly weigh-ins. So I'll do on Sundays, Sunday morning, use the bathroom, and then I'll weigh myself. Then I'll measure myself, my waist circumference, and I'll take a pinch and inch and do a body fat caliper test. And I log all that into my spreadsheet so I can also see the trend lines. So I can say, okay, more than anything, I just like the data. You don't need that. There's also a really good app called Happy Scale. And there's another one but I think it's only on iPhone. There's another one for Android. I forget what it is, but I'll put it in the show notes so that you have it. But the cool thing is my scale in my bathroom has a Bluetooth connection. So it sends that to my phone in its own app. It's a Renfo app, and Renfo plugs it into whatever the iPhone database is. and then Happy Scale pulls that automatically. So it starts tracking my daily progress. I like to weigh myself every day, and so it's looking at every day, and then after a couple of weeks, it can tell you, okay, you're losing about 2 pounds a week right now. Cool. And
that's cool.
You set your goals in there, and I'll open it up so that you can kind of look at it. But you set your goal, and it'll tell you how far along you are in your goal, and it'll tell you what your progress looks like, and it'll also tell you like when you'll see certain results. Like in a week you will be XYZ, and then the end of the month you'll be this, and you'll hit your final goal on this day. And it's all in fluctuation, but it's kind of this mental soothing thing that, okay, I'm making progress, and progress is slowing down. Let me speed it up. And so you can use a spreadsheet like I do. You can use the apps, whatever. I will say, anyway, those are...
I always use the apps.
Yeah, it's so much easier.
No other external thing. It's just like I got my phone, I put it in there, boom. Yeah.
Done, over it. Maybe if I could only have one tool, it's hard. It might be my water bottle. I love my water bottle. Yeah. It's what is it? I don't even know. Coleman. Yeah. But at first I had a 50-50, and it's insulated. Like it keeps everything really, really cold. The thing I like about the Coleman is the mouth really lets the water flow out. Like some of these, the ice clumps towards the mouth, and it just kind of trickles out, and it sucks. So the water flow is so much better in this one. And I take it everywhere. Like it's my favorite thing in the world. I left it in the gym on Monday when we flew out. And so I was just stressing the whole time until we got back. Not stressing, but I was just like excited to get it back.
Yeah.
So water bottle is really one of my favorite tools. For cooking, I really love the Instant Pot. My roommate has one. I didn't know how to use it, and I think it's like $100. But if you like shredded chicken, like you throw it in there, maybe throw some sauce in there or something, and within like 20-30 minutes you have like perfectly shredded chicken. It's a pressure cooker. It's amazing.
Wow.
I also bought a sous vide, but that's really expensive. Don't do that. That's just it's not for you. It's expensive, but I love it. It was one of my rewards because I started cooking every week, and I was like, man, I really want to play with this new toy. And so I eventually, when I hit a certain goal, I was like, I'm buying a sous vide. It's a water immersion thing that they use in restaurants. And it's just a way to like perfectly cook your steak, or to get the perfect soft boiled egg or whatever. Yeah. There's like 1,000 things you can do with it. That's really cool. But really all you need is the oven. Like the oven can do so much. I didn't know what the broiler was for until I started cooking.
What's it for?
So it basically goes super, super hot. It's the top rack. If you put something under it on the top rack, it kind of just flash cooks it. So if like you want to char something, which I did a lot of, like I might sous vide my chicken, and whenever it comes out, it's all kind of soft, and then I'll put it on a broiler rack and throw it in the broiler for 5 minutes, and suddenly it has a nice little bit of char on it. I'm like, that's fun.
Cool.
So the oven can do everything. Like instead of sous vide, you could easily just wrap it in foil and cook it that way, and that way you're not drying out your chicken or whatever. But you can look through all the recipes. I have tons of those kinds of things in there. My other favorite tools are calipers to measure my body fat percentage. There's a really good one, and there is no perfect way to measure your body fat, just to be clear. There's 1,000 ways to do it. None of them are perfect. Each of them have their issues. I don't recommend using the BMI, body mass index. That's a really old, outdated method of kind of quickly gauging if someone's fit or not. But it doesn't take into account something like your body fat percentage, which is really important, because you might look at Arnold Schwarzenegger by his BMI and say, you're unhealthy, buddy. But in reality, he's like one of the most ripped dudes in history. Like it betrays actuality, whereas a body fat percentage gives you a much better idea of how healthy you are or aren't. And I like to use calipers. I have an old one that isn't really sold anymore. It's an electronic one that works really well, and I'm not giving it up. But I also bought another one just to kind of test it. That's what's called a 1 pinch measurement, and it's good. It's good enough. Like the idea is and I'll link it in the show notes, but you kind of pinch an inch above your hip, and it measures that, and it gives you a pretty good idea of where your body fat percentage is. It's not perfect. And yeah, yours is pretty low.
I don't know.
You don't have much to pinch down there. Most of that
pinching.
shirt.
I'm pinching.
You're pinching
that
shirt.
No. What?
And so the thing I like about the calipers, as opposed to something like a DEXA or a bod pod, which are all great. Those are, if you want to do those, they're expensive, but go do them, man. They seem really cool. And they'll give you a really good idea of your visceral fat instead of just your adipose or subcutaneous fat that's on the outside that we all look at and frown at. But the nice thing about calipers is historically that's what bodybuilders have used. And so whenever I'm thinking in my head, I want to be at 10% body fat, I know what that means with a caliper. I don't really understand what that means with a DEXA or with a bod pod or hydrostatic, weighing, whatever. But again, if you want a better understanding, I go for it. Go do that crap. Not crap. Or there are much more scientific methods of all that.
I don't think you're offending anyone.
No, okay.
I think you're okay.
But yeah, using that is just kind of a really good way to see if the weight that's coming off is fat or not. And so I think having some way to consistently measure your body fat percentage. Go into your gym. They have these really nice bioelectric or bioimpedance analysis machines, BIAs. Don't use the ones on your home scales. Those things are crap.
Yeah, they go through your feet.
That's it. Yeah. Like, you have to think about the way electricity works. It takes the path of least resistance. That's why defibrillators usually go try to kind of trap your heart in the middle. It's because the shock wave needs to kind of hit the heart in the path. And so whenever you step on those ones in your bathroom that are cheap, the electricity shoots up one leg and right back down the other leg. It's not going up through your upper body and giving you a really holistic understanding of where your body fat percentage is. And so even though it may consistently give you the same wrong measurements, it's never been one good measurement the entire time. So it doesn't matter.
But even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah, well,
not these.
No.
Okay.
And so that's why I like the calipers. Is something that if you practice it for a week, like the first week you get it, do it every morning. By the end of the week, you'll be fine. You'll be close enough to repeating so that even if you're wrong, you will then be consistently wrong. Yeah. And have a really good idea of, hey, here's my progress. And then I also like myotape to kind of measure my waist. And that's just one extra measurement to see, my waist is shrinking and going down. And my last favorite tool is a dry erase marker. I like to write my stats on the mirror. I do a few things. I write weeks at the top left, and every time I've accomplished a new week, I get to make a new tally mark. That feels great.
Heck yeah. And
then I write my starting weight and then my current weight. And that will give me something to shoot for whenever I see, I was started at 217 and now I'm at 190. Damn, that's cool. Okay, but now next week I want to be at 188. So let me really focus and try to hit that number next week. And you got to keep it honest. Like, whatever you are, you are. Let that just be part of your motivational process. We are doing it here.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
It's all right, man. No, this is great.
So real quick, diet.
Real quick. Don't say that. Let's.
So one thing that is probably really tricky is the diet side of things. Measuring your food sounds super boring, and to some degree it is. But if you meal prep on a Sunday, life gets so much easier. Like, you do it once for a couple of hours and then you're done for the week. I can't tell you how much that saved me in anxiety and just figuring it out and not trying to wing it and say, I don't feel like cooking tonight, so I'm just going to pick something up on the way home. Those moments are going to happen. You're going to get tired after work and you're not going to want to do any of that cooking. But if you spend your Sunday just for a couple of hours, and it'll give you something to also do throughout the week when you're hungry, I would spend hours every week planning what I'm going to cook this coming Sunday. And I would say, ooh, what about this? And I would go to HEB.com because, for one, I shop at HEB, but also they show every product that they have in their store along with the nutrition label, so that I could look at and say, oh, here's what their 97% lean chicken, comes in at. So I could start calculating and figuring out, okay, 1 pound of...
You're such a nerd.
Such a
You're
nerd.
such a nerd.
But it's such a great way to occupy your mind when you're hungry.
Oh, yeah.
And so it may sound really lame, but I promise if I really were to only pick one tool, I would pick a food scale. It's so much easier than like the measuring utensils. It sounds really complicated, but I promise it's so much easier, so much cleaner. You try to measure 2 tablespoons of butter and tell me you believe in your result. Whereas what I'll do is I'll put the peanut butter tub on the scale. There's a little zero out button. It's called a tare. And you tare or tar it out, however you pronounce it. I don't know what it's called. But you zero out the scale. And now, because the label will say 2 tablespoons or 28 grams. And now you just take out until you see negative 28 grams. You're done. And you eat the spoon clean. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's so much more precise. 1 cup of yogurt is 227 grams. Like, boom. I'm just scooping that out and putting it in the bowl. Or sometimes I'll just put the bowl on the scale, zero it out, start adding things. Here's my 227 of yogurt, 0. 70 grams of blueberries, which is half a cup of blueberries. And it's like, I don't know, 35 or 40 calories. Blueberries are the best. I never in my life bought blueberries to eat until this. And I keep them in the fridge all the time. But whatever. So food scales are really, really great because they also kind of allow you to double check someone's math on a label. Like if they say, yeah, you're getting so much pepperoni in this package, and you might just say, okay, well then I'll just dump this whole package out and it'll be exactly as the label says. You might be missing a full half serving or a full serving, which sounds super lame until you're really hungry and you're like, man, I get this extra 75 calories. Boom.
Yeah.
That's good to know. I want to know that.
At the end of the day, when you're still hungry and you don't want to go to bed hungry.
Man, anything helps. And there's this great adage I found on a Reddit thread that they said, you're not hungry. If you're hungry, you'll eat an apple. If you won't eat an apple, then you're just bored.
Then you're bored. Yes. Oh my God, it's so good.
I heard that. On point.
Yes.
Like I was like, oh, that's so true. And that kind of changed the way I thought about hunger. Because I don't like delicious reds. I love a Granny Smith. But if you can get me to eat a delicious red, I'm doing that. Sorry, that was me. I tapped it.
Oh, okay. I was like,
then I'm hungry. I'll eat a delicious red. Calorie killers, liquids, but not just soda, milk, OJ, smoothies, sauces, sandwich toppings, like mayo and vinaigrette can really just add up. Soy sauce, teriyaki, check the labels and count it. Like, especially if you're just getting started. It's really, really important if you're not used to doing any of this. You really should count every single thing you eat. It will shock you where that extra 100 or 200 calories are coming from.
Or 5.
It really does add up. So count every single thing you're eating, sometimes with a food scale, sometimes not, whatever. Like I think the candy bars are probably accurate. Those things are very reproducible.
Yes.
So yeah, and skip that, or I've already covered that, I should say. Dealing with hunger.
Yeah, this is the biggest questions I have for you.
Yeah. So there are times at night whenever, especially at the beginning, when I was still really hungry, I like miso soup, like low calorie soup became my go-to for the first 3 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks. I would still be hungry at the end of the night. And maybe I'll post like all my stats so you can see my actual spreadsheet of week to week and day to day of how I did. The first week, I didn't hit my my goal was to hit 1,500 calories a day. I didn't hit it at all for my first week. I was struggling so bad. And one thing that I would do was eat miso soup. It was like 35 calories for a bowl of soup. And that helped a lot. So that was a big one. But any low calorie soupy thing is going to be huge to kind of deal with hunger a little bit. And then for me also waiting, the longer I could push my meals into the back of the day, the better.
What would you say? Yeah. Okay. So that kind of goes to the question I was going to ask is, what do you say to the listeners that, are dreading this kind of thing, that like, the idea of being hungry is scary to them, in a way,
Yeah. I
Has your relationship with food changed too?
a little bit, not much, if I'm totally honest. Post diet, I went through Europe or through Ireland for a couple weeks and ate every donut I saw. I would like to say I was a super disciplined guy, but I was like, man, I'm not technically. For 1 week I was on vacation. 1 week was a production. I was on set, and so that week of vacation though, I went nuts. Like it got crazy. But to some degree though, yeah, like I didn't realize how full I needed to be to really fall asleep until I would say this process. Like I don't have to be miserable, overstuffed in order to fall asleep. I can have my snack and be like, okay, that's fine. I drink a, glass of cold water and I'm usually pretty good to go. So no.
Yeah. Okay. So you gotta, if you have cookies and chips and high calorie, low, low, my brain is shutting off, but,
low glycemic, whatever.
High empty calorie counts, right? Like candy bars and stuff like that, cookies. Step number one is to get them out of your house.
Yeah.
Right. Because when it's midnight and you're hungry and you're just now realizing you're hungry, maybe you've been busy all day and now all of a sudden you're super hungry and you don't have any more calories left, but there's a cookie there or a Snickers bar. It might sound like, oh, it's just a cookie, but it's not just about that. It's just a cookie. It's the mentality of you don't even have to choose to not eat that if it's not in your house.
It's not even there.
It's not an option,
It
can't be an option.
Absolutely true. I know that there were certain things that would start to make me break down and that would kind of mess my calories up for the day. Yeah. And I think on that exact note, it's super important whenever I would go grocery shopping to write my list of what I was going to buy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
To the T. I knew everything that I was going to buy. And that kept me from perusing. I was never there perusing and just kind of looking around. I was there to grab this, and get out. Yep. And it made life so much easier because I wasn't curious about that other food. And it kept me very focused. And so writing your grocery list ahead of time, not just winging it.
And it'll save you money.
It will. Dude, this is so much cheaper. That's the one thing I've totally forgot to make a note about. This is so much cheaper than people would make you believe.
Yeah.
People think this is an expensive process. It's not. Yeah. I saved money. I was broke when I was doing this. Yeah. And, for 3 pounds of chicken, like it's $4 or $5.
Yeah.
And that'll feed me for the week. And then maybe a few sweet potatoes and like an extra $1. So for like 10 or $15, a dozen eggs, et cetera, like so much cheaper than people think. Vegetables are cheap, man.
Yeah, they are.
If you don't want to buy the expensive organic stuff, cool. I don't think I am usually, unless the stuff that I want is sold out. Like I'll go buy a bundle of asparagus and some tomatoes and crap, man. I'm hog heaven.
Buy crap?
Maybe. I'm growing my own stuff. If it's cheap and by the pound. Yeah. And so, it's such a... Stay focused. It's cheaper. There's so many benefits to this. Supplement wise, since we're still under diet, creatine was really the only thing. I mean, I took several things, but if I only had to choose one, I would probably choose creatine, unless you want to count protein powder, technically a supplement. But I would also use it as a flavoring for my yogurt.
That's brilliant.
And it's 2-in-1.
It's brilliant.
Getting protein and it's delicious freaking yogurt. And if you don't like protein powder, then yogurt with a little bit of cinnamon powder and fruits, still good. I ate that for the first 2 or 3 months. I didn't even had protein powder in it. But creatine is huge. I'll link to it. You can read all about it.
Yeah.
Psyllium husks to kind of help flush my system out. At night, I would take ZMA. It's just zinc and magnesium. It helps give you a deeper sleep. It's not anything. It's not a sleeping pill or anything like that. Nope. It's just it helps you helps
you relax.
Yeah, it's really super good. And the first couple times you take it, you get crazy dreams. It's the best.
Oh, cool.
They're vivid. They're just very memorable.
Yeah.
And it's pretty fun. Every once in a while, I'll take a melatonin, which for me, jet lag at times was, I didn't know about it until our friend Heather introduced me. I flew out to New Zealand, which was a big time change. And I was having a really hard time adjusting. And finally, she convinced me to take some melatonin, and changed my life, man.
Oh,
I was
cool.
like, oh, this is exactly what it's designed for.
Wow.
It's for jet lag.
Yeah.
Yeah. And whey protein. And so that was supplement wise. That's pretty much all. Nothing crazy.
Special.
I didn't do any like fat loss pills or anything like that. I mean, unless you count my cup of coffee in the morning, which
makes you poop.
Yeah. Hey.
Again with the poop.
Boom. And so workout wise, my workout was pretty simple, because here's the thing: when you're in a calorie deficit and you've been working out long enough, you're trained, you're gonna lose strength, and it sucks. It's never fun to be in the gym and say, last week I got 8 reps and this week I got 7 or 6. And so I designed my plan in order to more take advantage of time, because for me to really do one of my workouts, I take to maximize like hypertrophy and progressive overload. I try to take between 2 to 5 minutes in between sets to let you recuperate and then get another really good set in. I didn't take that path here because that would take over an hour to do all my body parts, and I like full body workouts, which I may dive into here in a second, lightly. But my workout plan consisted of 2 types of workouts: a Metcon, which is short for metabolic conditioning. It's this idea of you're trying to use resistance training in a very fast way. Like it's almost like cardio with weights in one sense, is one way to kind of think about it. And so normally it's kind of CrossFit is one of the things that really popularized this idea. And I started falling in love with this kind of workout style when we were doing 300 workout. And so every week I do 2 Metcons. On Monday and Friday are my Metcon days. And then for my other days, and I'll tell you exactly what those were and why they're not right for you, and probably for anybody else. But and then on my other type of workout was more strength training, based on Jim Wendler's 5-3-1, and he had this brilliant insight that if you take a workout, let's say there's 4 main exercises that you want to do: bench press, squats, deadlifts, and shoulder press, overhead press. Basically, those 4 body parts that you're going to work: your chest, your shoulders, your legs, and your back. And you can break those into those specific lifts, and I did my versions of them. Okay, well, if you think about it in terms of a 4-week cycle, and you start with your max weight that you can bench, let's say, is 100 pounds. Well, we'll start by giving you incremental. Week 1, you'll do sets of 5 at 65%, 75%, 85% of your 1 rep max. And then week 2, you'll do sets of 3 at 70, 80, and 90%. And then on week 3 is your kind of max out day. You'll do a set of 5, a set of 3, and a set of 1 plus however many you can do. That's do as many as you can. At 75%, 85%, and 95% is your max, so to speak. And then you kind of have a deload week. And then after that 4-week cycle, you start it again, and then you add 5 pounds to your total max. And now you'll incrementally kind of get yourself stronger slowly over time. It's incremental progress. And so that's basically all I did for my strength training. Is I would do on Mondays, I would do deadlifts, and then my Monday Metcon, which I made up in while I was in New Zealand, and I called it my Strider 300. I kind of loosely based it off of the 300 workout, and I called it Strider based on Lord of the Rings because I was in New Zealand, and
Yeah, why not?
my buddy works for Weta, who
I like it.
helped make Lord of the Rings. And so my Strider 300 would be like dumbbell plank rows for 50 reps. That's 25 each arm. And then I would do some version of a hang clean for 50 reps, which I've realized early on was way too many reps and flared up my elbow pain, which is why I ended up not doing any arm work for the rest of the workout or until the end of the 30 weeks. And so instead of those, I would do like dumbbell raises.
Like front rows.
Yeah, kind of like front rows, but I like dumbbells that better range of motion, less shoulder impingement, that kind of thing. I'm not recommending anybody do those. I just wanted something to kind of assimilate that. Anyway, and then I would do full body crunches for 50 reps, 50 wall balls with I think I did the 12-pound ball every week. No, a 10-pound. It was a 10 or 12-pound ball for 50 reps, and then a 50-pound dumbbell bench press for 50 reps, and then a 50-cal row to end it. And I would do that for time, and so I would time myself for each individual exercise so that I could look week over week. And this is why I did it, is so that I could have something that I could progress at. Instead of seeing my strength go down, I could see my times go down, and I could compete against myself. And so at the beginning, the first time I did it in New Zealand, before I even started cutting, it was 44 minutes. Like it took me to do that. Yeah. But by the end, I was averaging around 22 minutes. And so I cut my time basically in half, and I'm happy to post that. Like
you should.
I kept all my dirty notes.
I love it.
Friday workout was the 300 workout I would do, which if you've never done is it was modified for the record. 25 pull-ups, 50 deadlifts at 135, which I switched to 95 pounds instead of 135, and 50 push-ups, 50 box jumps, 50 floor wipers, which is kind of a core exercise where you lay on the floor holding those deadlifts that you did earlier. You now hold that above your head, and you do toe touches, basically leg lifts to each side, and each side is a rep. And then 50 kettlebell presses with 16 kilograms, and then another 25 pull-ups. I never did the 25 pull-ups at the very end because I was worried about my elbow, and I was already kind of pushing it with.
We used to do those though.
Yeah, right, we used to do those, and my time went down. I don't know, it's not the full workout, but I got down close to like 21 minutes.
Nice.
Which if you threw those extra 25 pull-ups, I would have struggled.
Right.
But anyway, at some points I would do like inverted rows instead of the last 25 pull-ups. But yeah, that was just nice for me to be able to, I'm getting a lot of resistance training in. Like I'm engaging my muscles like a mofo. Pull-ups are no joke. All of that, is explosive and made me feel like I'm able to get into the gym, break down my muscle, pretty reasonably, especially with my Monday workout. And then with the strength training, I felt really good that at a minimum, I was doing some very specific strength training stuff that I would do first. And then Wednesdays would just be all strength training. So Monday, I would do deadlifts followed by my Strider. And then Wednesdays would be my other three big lifts, shoulder press and bench press. And I didn't do squats. I did a leg press because I have back issues. And it just feels bad. And also don't do the barbell bench. I don't think that's a great exercise. I just started doing it again after like 2 years.
It's pointless.
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
when are you ever going to need to do that too?
No, that's so true. Yeah. But the shoulder impingement, I feel like I've never heard of a pro weightlifter who hasn't had like shoulder surgery at some point. Yeah. And so just the range of motion isn't ideal. I think you can get a better range of motion with a dumbbell.
And you have all those stabilizer muscles.
Yeah, it's just really nice. There is the problem with dumbbells though, is it gets harder to scale up your weight after a certain point.
Yeah.
Because jumping 5 pounds per hand at a certain point becomes
too much.
Yeah. And so,
do you consider a Metcon So you don't consider a Metcon cardio?
I don't. Like, I think just based on a lot of it's, to me, resistance training. Like,
Yeah.
Deadlifting, pull-ups, some of those are more core based. Like, I think of floor wipers and crunches. That's, for me, really important. I'm not going to do regular core work. I hate core exercise, but I really need it for my back.
Yeah.
And so I kind of use that as a technique to slip in more core work for myself. But
Gotcha.
no, I mean, I don't. I'm sure, you could look at it that way, but
that's fine.
I don't really have a strong, I don't know. I do have a strong opinion about it, but as far as logic and reasoning, you can look at it however you like. I think because of the resistance training aspect, is why I would set it apart from cardio in the sense of running or playing basketball or biking, because those are so steady state focused that there is no real resistance training. There's no ability to incrementally increase resistance in those exercises. And so that's my logic anyway. And
Yeah, that's good.
okay. But yeah, if you define cardio as just raising your heart rate, then fine, I did cardio. But if we define it in terms of taxing our lungs or endurance based, more than targeting our muscles, then I did no cardio.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And so, yeah, injury wise, so there is this thing. I'm talking about losing strength, but there is an idea of newbie gains. So if you're dieting and you're getting stronger, it's probably because you haven't been in the gym before. So there is a certain amount of slack that you're going to pick up, even if you're dieting and getting into the gym and doing resistance training. You'll probably get stronger. You'll probably put on a little muscle. There's a ceiling to that if you're in a deficit. But a lot of that too is this idea of neuromuscular gains. Muscles are like a choir. Your body gets better at using the singers that are there to create a louder harmony. But to add new members of the choir, you probably need a calorie surplus. That's kind of the easiest way I could think of to explain that. And so you just get better, your mind gets better, and you get more adapted at recruiting all your muscle fibers, and that's neuromuscular gains. So I'll skip over injury stuff. I mean, know what your injury is. Like, I had golfer's elbow, and so I skipped doing arm work for a while. It wasn't getting better, and so I started looking up more and more stretches, and finally found a couple stretches that alleviated like 90% of my pain. So at the end of
Post those on the notes.
Yeah,
because I'm sure that there's probably people that
that's probably true. If you have knee pain, I had knee pain. I thought I wasn't going to be able to do any more squats or lunges or anything. I'll link you to a podcast episode from Just One More. It's a fitness podcast of these women from New York, and they do this great week by week. They decided to do all the body parts, and I listened to their knee episode, and it gave me so much encouragement because one of the women was like, my knee was basically like the ligaments in there were severed. Like, I basically had almost no knee connected at all at a certain point, and I was able to rehab it. The knee is fine. It rehabs and heals very, very well if you know what you're doing. And so I stopped looking at my knee as something that was unfixable and said, okay, how can I go about fixing this? And started like foam rolling. I don't know if it actually helped. There's limited evidence that foam rolling helps, but mentally it helped.
And it very much does.
Yeah. And,
I have knee pain too.
And you foam roll. I think for me too, it was form. Like, I started reworking through a lot of the form on some of the exercises. I think my lunging form was just bad. I was short legging it, and you got to get a nice stride out. My roommate happens to be a former track athlete for Mississippi State. So I had him show me some stuff, and it was great. Like, I'm now lunging and doing all kind of leg work and squat work. I do goblet squats. I don't do back squats, but I do goblet squats and a little bit of front squatting, and no knee pain. Like, awesome. If you just take the time to, research and think through some of your issues, you can probably fix it and get better. Could
I say my little thing about
please.
my knee real fast? So I'm a runner, and I'm training for the marathon, and I've had a couple of like 50-mile weeks and stuff, and that's a lot for me. It's not a lot for some other runners, but man, a lot of like longer runs are like really difficult for me to, really difficult. There you go. Ooh, Jesus. Really difficult. My knee just kills on the outside of my left knee. And in some respects, it's a little bit of patella going on, but for me, a lot of it is stretching, not before I run, after throughout the day, but not before I run. And it's the simple stretch of grabbing my ankle, pulling it to my ass. You know,
I incorporated that too, because you showed me that.
And then, but moving while you have your foot up to your butt, moving your knee in towards your body to get the outside, to get that it's late, I can't think of it, but the IT band.
Oh yeah.
And then to the outside to get the other parts of the quad, because it's 4 big ass muscles. So you got to like, find, okay, yeah, I'm hitting the front part of the quad, I'm hitting the inside, I'm hitting the top body, and just hold it for about 20-30 seconds, and then go to the next foot, hold it 20-30 seconds, and do that every couple of hours, and it just goes away. It's really great. And then also, because a lot of times when you don't even notice that your muscles are shortened, right? They're tight, and if you don't foam roll, which is huge, if you don't foam roll and you don't stretch, then it's going to pull your kneecap out of place every time you take a step, whether that's walking downstairs, which is agony when my knee is flaring up, or I'm actually trying to bound and run, because running is just a series of falls, right? Mm-hmm. One after the other, and you're catching yourself. I think you put somewhere like 4 times your body weight on your knee every time you take a step when you're running. So yeah, the stretching was huge.
What do you have a warm-up procedure that you do, or you just kind of go after it?
Yeah. I always stretch my hip flexor. That's the only thing I stretch. I don't stretch anything else. I'll do active stuff, so it's to activate muscles, but where I get down on one knee and then it just kind of like lean my hips forward a little bit, but make sure my body is straight up. The top end is straight up, and I just lean my hips forward, and that really gets your hip flexor right, so that when you're taking a step, you're already open. And I'll only do that for 10 seconds on each side, 12 seconds, nothing big. You don't want to stretch before you run, because you want your muscles to they should be like rubber bands. And if you stretch out a rubber band, I mean, it's not going to reshape. It's not going to, reform into the shape that it was. It's like so stretched out. So yeah, that, and then I do activation stuff like leg swings and A skips and B skips and stuff like that to activate, and butt kicks to activate all the muscles and
so
stuff.
A lot of
just
dynamic,
to get blood there, dynamic stuff. And that none of that really is stretching.
Yeah.
It's all just getting blood to the muscles. So anyway, that's my knee shit.
Nice. Yeah, I do a little dynamic stuff. I do some like leg kicks.
Yeah.
Very light, very, very light.
Yeah.
Just to kind of warm up my hammies. And then I'll foam roll, and then it's just statics after that. I really like static stretching. For me, I tried several routines of dynamic stretching, and I just had so many problems flare up that I was like, that's not for me.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's different if you're going into like lift weights.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Right. That's different than
maybe so. I don't know.
Running for an hour.
Sure. Yeah. That's definitely two different. So yeah, I mean, but generally I really like full body workouts, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I remember reading this old article from Alwyn Cosgrove. I don't know how to pronounce his name, from like 2006 that really shaped the way I thought about my workouts. And he was like measuring all his clients' workouts. And he was like, man, the best method that we found has been, full body workouts, 3 days a week, and doing a heavy day, a medium day, and a light day. And he didn't give an actual program, so I had to design it around some of these concepts in mind. And I really, appreciate that. I'm probably increasing some of my volume more than I had. So as before, I think I did like 4 sets per body part, and now I'm probably going to push it to like 6 per day. So chest, 6 times chest on Monday, 6, et cetera, et cetera. But honestly, I mean, whatever y'all want to do is probably going to be fine. I'll link y'all to a bunch of stuff if you want to do Windler's 531, or there's a lot of these on Reddit, like NSUNs, or there's German volume training. There's so many things. It all works. Create some fatigue. Just look. I like logging on my spreadsheets or in my journal, whatever you want to call it, just so that I can look back and say, what did I do last week? Can I do one more or two more? And that gives me something to shoot for. And even if I don't, that's fine. And I kind of measure my breaks. My rest periods is all under measurement. Whenever I'm doing my normal workouts, like I am now, I'm back to like my hour-long weightlifting sessions. And I'm measuring. I'm running a stopwatch, like 2 minutes rest or 3 minutes rest. There's so much information on exercises and lifting. All of it's fine. The only real point is that you're doing some form of resistance training. You're engaging your muscles and you're challenging yourself, week over week. And so that, you're constantly engaging and staying on top of all of that. Okay. We're very near the end.
Don't say that.
So, but this is my favorite part.
This is good.
My favorite part is staying motivated. This was kind of the trick of it all. Because how do you stay motivated for 30 weeks of hunger? Like, I'm sorry, but if you never get hungry in this process, you're probably doing it wrong. Yeah. And if you're doing it right and you're never hungry, shoot me those tips.
Yeah. How is that?
Yeah. For me, there were setbacks, there were stalls. Track your binges. Every once in a while, I think twice maybe. Once I really had a breakdown, I was like, man, I'm just hungry. I just want to go. I'm just going to go with it. And I made a deal with myself. I'm going to eat whatever I want out of HEB. If I can buy it in there, I'll eat it. I didn't want to order a pizza and then have leftovers. I was like, no, I'm going to eat it, and I'm going to eat it today. Anything you don't eat today, you throw away. And this was way deep in the game. I was probably like on week 20 at this point. Mm-hmm. And I was afraid to track it and log all and look back and say, what did all I eat? It's not as bad as you think. It's always going to be worse on the scale the next day than it is in actuality, like we were talking about earlier. I didn't eat 15,000 calories. Because of all the dieting, I don't think I ate more than like 3,000.
Your stomach was smaller?
Yeah. Like, you just can't. And so don't be afraid to track those binges. I promise it's rarely as bad as you think it is. And also, don't punish yourself. Just move on. No extra cardio, like, especially if it's a really bad day, then whatever, man. Just go back to the exact same thing you were doing the day before you wrecked it. Like, it's all fine. It's just water weight. You really haven't ruined, 6 weeks of progress in one day. Yeah. I doubt it's possible. Yeah. I'm sure someone out there is willing to prove me wrong. But
good luck with that.
Another thing I really enjoyed was watching CrossFit videos. I'm not a fan of CrossFit itself. Maybe ironically, like, I don't think their programming is usually very good. I think there's a lot of trainers out there who are writing these programs that are just doing it to be hard instead of targeted. And even some of the CrossFit Games programming to me looks suspect. In one of their documentaries, they have them do first, like, I don't know, a 5-mile run or a 10K or something in the heat in the mountains. And then immediately they have to max deadlift. I'm like, that seems irresponsible.
Yeah. No.
I mean, I believe that all these are very well-trained athletes, but if you look at the form of some of those guys, like, man, that's scary. Yeah. As someone who's herniated a disc deadlifting, I get very flinchy in those moments. Yeah. But, nitpicking aside, it's incredibly motivating to watch these athletes who are finely tuned instruments, working their butts off. They look amazing. They're throwing around badass weight. Katrin, David's daughter, is like my spirit animal, man.
Yeah, she's amazing.
I love her. I love Sarah Sigmund's daughter. I love Annie. I mean, Tia Claire. Matt Fraser is a freaking badass. Like, Vellner.
If you watch no one else, watch Matt Fraser. Honestly, from where he came from nothing to now being like one of the greatest of all time, and to see his reaction for a winning second that first time, was like so motivating, because he was so mad. He was so mad at himself for not winning the entire thing. I mean, he came from nothing.
As a rookie.
He came from nothing, and he got second in the world. And it was like it didn't exist.
So amazing.
It was unbelievable. And then he's just dominated ever since.
Yeah, can't touch them.
Yeah.
And I love watching these guys work, all of them. And just on that note that you said, man, I love watching all of them together too. They're all really uplifting and encouraging to each other. Like watching the Redeemed and the Dominant. I was watching that earlier today before my workout just to get jazzed. And watching Tia Claire, win, and then Cara Webb is so happy for her. She took second, and she was like, if someone else is going to win, I'm glad it was her. And she was so happy. Like that spirit, that attitude is so freaking cool, and it just permeates throughout the CrossFit community. So hat tip to y'all guys, man. Y'all are really, really cool people. And I love watching you work out. And seeing and I'll post my favorite video is actually this 12-minute head-to-head video of Katrin versus Matt.
Oh my God.
And it's like them doing the same workout in two different facilities. They like separately recorded them timing and doing this workout. And there's a little progress bar that you get to see them kind of how they're doing head to head. And it's a split screen, so you're watching them both at the same time. It's freaking cool. I've seen that probably 50 times.
That's awesome.
I watch it so much, and it just
put it in the show notes.
jacked.
I want to see it.
Yeah. And so watching anything health or fitness related will probably get you motivated to go and do likewise. Yeah. I think there's this idea of, I don't know if it's an actual not philosophical idea, but what are the people, psychiatric idea maybe? Or there's this idea. Psychological, thank you.
It's midnight.
It is.
It's after midnight.
And so there's this idea that, you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with the most. And so I feel like I want to kind of trick myself into surrounding myself with all these athletes, that this is you. This just isn't you yet. Yeah. You're going to be there. You can be that fit. You can lift that weight. You can look that fit. Like, I just wanted to mentally trick myself out into saying, this is normal. This is your new normal.
Yeah.
What you're seeing in the mirror is temporary. This is what you're going to be. And CrossFit videos for me are what does it. There might be documentaries. There might be just magazines. I don't know. But finding those ways to kind of encourage yourself and cast a vision for who you want to be and where you want to be at, I think is really important.
Yeah.
And there's also really great communities. For me, there was a really great method of, I didn't really tell anyone for a long time that I was doing this. I kept it to myself. I think there's a little bit of a mental edge you give yourself when nobody else knows, as opposed to saying it kind of satisfies the need to accomplish it.
Yeah.
And for me, I know that's really true so many times, where unless I'm trying to work out an idea that I can't figure out, I try not to talk about it. I'll let it kick around in my head, and it becomes this internal motivation that's trying to get out. But I'm only letting it out through my actions, through lifting weights and watching my diet. And my game was to see who would notice. And the one redeeming fact of my before picture was nobody ever noticed. No one noticed unless I had mentioned it. And then
I noticed.
You never noticed.
Yes, I did.
It wasn't. You never said anything.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
You come over, dude. You would come over. You would come over to do a podcast, and you'd have your sleeveless shirt on, and I'd be like, bro.
For months, I didn't.
Well, yeah, but it's gonna take months.
Well, I mean, for months, I wore all my old baggy clothes to try to hide it from you for a while.
Right, but the moment that I saw your arm, dude, I 1000% noticed, and I said something multiple times. I did.
I would feel really good about saying you did not until I had mentioned it. I would feel really good about that because it was something I was looking for.
No.
Other than you, quote unquote, the only person who ever actually noticed without me saying anything was my brother, Justin. But that was because we were at Schlitterbahn. I literally had my shirt off and like my abs were starting to poke out at that point.
Yeah.
He was like, so what are you trying to lose the weight for? Like, what are you doing? You're getting jacked or what? And I was like, I'm almost 40 and there's this body I've had in my head of who I am for years now. And why not now?
Yeah.
It's now or never. Like, I still want to do phase 2. This is all just phase 1. Like, phase 2 is actually bulking and putting on muscle, which I'll get to here in a second, which will only take a second. I basically just did it. But
All right.
But there's all kinds of other communities that on Reddit, for instance, there's shout out to the Lose It community. Like, there are so many great people who would cheer you on, or that you can just lurk like I did for like 99% of the time. I just look at other people's progress and what they're doing and their advice and things, their failures and their warnings. Like, there's so many communities online that you can find and be a part of, or just watch to find motivation. There's a lot of great subreddits. I'll link you to a bunch of my favorites. Lose It is a fantastic one. Everyone there has really great feedback, and it's a really encouraging place. There's also a good one, 1500 is Enough, where it's a lot of like diet, and most of it's cool memes, and it drives me crazy. But every once in a while, someone will post a recipe or some progress, or whatever, or a snack that they found that's like, man, this has really low calorie and it's delicious. There's another one for women that's more specific, I guess, that 1200 is enough. Or 1200 is plenty and 1500 is plenty. And those are great. There's progress pics that you just get addicted to seeing before and after pictures. And people saying
it's amazing.
And it's in every direction. Like, some people have a hard time putting on weight, and you can use these same rules to put on weight. Well, similar rules. You don't want to add 500 to 1,000 calories because you'll just be adding fat. But you can see like someone that was struggling to put on weight, their before and after, like, hey, I put on 75 pounds over the last 3 years. Check it out. And it's so freaking cool. And it makes me realize this is doable. People are doing this every day. This person lost 250 pounds. Check it out. Like, it's so damn cool and encouraging, and feeding your fire that way and saying, that's going to be me.
I love that you didn't tell anybody, because like so many people, or so many like diets say, tell people, because they'll keep you hold you accountable. And it's like we're not
dicks to each other. We're not just going to be like,
and what does that really mean, that they'll hold you accountable? It means that you're letting them down. You're letting them down. They have nothing to do with you. They have nothing to do with your choice to not eat that cookie at midnight. They have nothing to do with your choice to eat celery instead of a hamburger, like, or whatever. It's not up to them. So then if you have a bad week, or you just, falling off the wagon or whatever, you're not thinking about letting yourself down. You're thinking about letting other people outside of you down. And that is not the right way to think of this. This is you making a change. Your decision to make this change before you were 40 was your fucking decision. It had nothing to do with anybody else. And so kudos to you for doing that. That is the opposite way that I've ever heard anybody ever say to do. Because when you decide to let people know, because it's the same thing as like, if they tell couples when they get pregnant not to tell anybody for 12 weeks, because something could happen that's really dangerous. The first trimester is really dangerous, and something could happen. And if you tell everybody, then all of a sudden, you got to tell them that, whatever. And that has happened to people that I know, people in my family, and it's terrible. But it's even more terrible for you, right? And so just keep it to yourself, do what you need to do. And then when you get to a point where you're feeling comfortable, like you're feeling like, okay, I can definitely do this. I've been doing it for a while and now I'm good. Then tell other people.
Absolutely.
That's great.
I couldn't hide it from a roommate because he was watching me,
of course,
cook and everything. But everyone else was like, you know what? I just want to see how far I can go. And I want to keep this internal motivation, exactly like you just said. This is for me. This is for nobody else.
That's awesome.
And I think that was a really useful mental tactic to stay motivated and on focus. Also like to read articles. I think the more you're trying to educate yourself and learn, you're just going to want to implement these things. Like if you learn a new exercise, the chance, and it looks fun and cool to do or whatever, you're now excited to go to the gym. And you're now excited to make that happen. And so I think education can be very motivational. The more you learn, the more you're apt to want to put these things into practice. And it's also important to round out your your knowledge base. It's just so easy to only listen to one thing. Like if you only listen to this podcast and nothing else, you would be in trouble. Like don't do that. Go read a bunch of articles, read everything, and don't take any single person as the authority on everything. Like take what they had to say and weigh it against everything else. Like please just keep creating those, extra avenues of curiosity and keep them alive. New workouts, new exercises are great ways to keep you interested in going to the gym. That's for me, one of the other fun things about doing my little crazy workouts is like, man, this is all new. It's fun. It's temporary. I'll just do it for this time. Fun to do. New workouts, playlists. I'll link you if I can. I don't know if I can link you to playlists. Like I have some workout playlists. My boy Shamari hooked up, man. If you like hip hop, these are awesome. They're old playlists because I've had them so long, but maybe I'll get them to make some new ones. But podcasting, all these things, putting on a podcast and cooking for a couple of hours, time just flew right by. Yeah. All these little things that can help you. There's so many good fitness podcasts. Like I'll link you to some of my favorites. I like having the mirror stats, like writing every week in the mirror. It's all there. So every time I go into the bathroom, every time I'm in there every morning, I'm constantly reminded I have a goal and here's my progress so far. That felt like a really good way to stay motivated and stay on point. New workout clothes, like do whatever, man. Set a goal for yourself. Say, hey, if I hit this, I'll get some new clothes, or just get them anyway and say, hey, it's time to show up in my new gear and get it dirty. Whatever, like do whatever it takes to make you feel better. I started shaving a little bit of my chest so that I could see my results better. That was motivating. It's like, oh yeah, you're not just a hairy beast. Like you're doing some work down there. Have a goal for what comes next. I think this was big. It can't just say, okay, I hit my goal and now I'm going back to normal. I don't think we have set weights or set metabolisms in that way that you have a set weight point that, oh, you lost all 40 pounds and now the 40 are going to come right back. I think you have set habits.
Yes.
And it's those habits that are going to make your body return to wherever you were. So it's important to not just accomplish your goal. I think it's important to have something that comes next. What do I want to accomplish after this? And that'll help keep you focused and have you looking forward instead of getting complacent. And that's all individual. Maybe for you, it's just maintaining. And so whatever that looks like, maybe you say for 5 days a week, I eat at maintenance or maybe just below. And then on the weekends, I don't count anything. I do whatever I want. I don't know. There's 1,000 ways to slice it up, but keep track. Like I would say at a minimum, keep weighing yourself at least once a week after you hit your goal. But having some goal after the fact is a really, really strong idea. For me, that's like bulking. This was all phase one. I wanted to lean up so that I could then start focusing on building muscle. And that'll be my goal this year is to put on, if I could if I did everything perfectly, I could probably put on between 20 and 24 pounds of muscle. I doubt I'll do everything perfectly. It's a trial and error. This is a new phase.
Yeah.
I spent so long like trying to talk myself into dropping the weight that now it's like, oh, I have a new thing to learn. And so that'll be what I'm doing this year is bulking up and trying to put on. If I do 15 pounds, I'll be really happy. But if I can hit 20 or 24, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So I would say we can skip the movie body stuff. I think it's just interesting. These Hollywood stars go through these crazy workouts, and you have to understand their needs are, and this will be the only thing I say about it unless you want to jump in. Their needs are different from our needs. Like they're not just there to look good. Yeah, duh. But they're also there to do fight sequences and to train for very specific types of fighting. So just because you see someone doing a thing doesn't mean that's a good idea. It just means they're training specifically for their role. I don't need to do 30 takes of a choreographed fight on camera. Like they need to be able to say a line after they do all these crazy things. Like their cardio needs and their muscular needs are all incredibly different.
And if you were getting paid $10 million, then you'll eat rice and chicken all day, every day.
Right.
Like, who cares?
Who
Right?
cares? Yeah. So just a quick recap. Calorie deficit, lift weights, and eat protein. So if you don't know how to get started, I would say step one is find out what your maintenance is. Google TDEE calculator. There's tons of them out there. There's this idea and that I think is fairly bogus. It's technically true, but not going to be very helpful to your journey. That muscle, it takes more calories. But it's not as much as you think, and you're not going to gain it during this process. Just to give you an idea, so let's pretend I'm at 10% body fat at 170, which right now I'm sitting at 190. Wes went a little wild in the holidays. But let's say I'm at 170 at 10% body fat, which is about right where I would need to be to hit 10%. So my daily calories maintenance would be 2240. That would keep me even keel, right? But let's say I'm still 10% body fat and I put on 20 pounds of muscle. That's an extra, now I'm at 2450. That's an extra 200 calories for 20 pounds of muscle. Do you know how hard it is to put on 20 pounds of muscle?
Yeah.
You're not going to do that. So while muscle does take more, calorie balance, if I was 190 at 16% body fat, I'd still be at 2320. So you get an extra 100 calories by switching, fat to muscle. That 100 calories isn't going to make or break your crazy eating habits. So don't live with this idea that building muscle is going to be your end all be all fix. We're all going to have these same exact issues, come hell or high water. But so step one, figure out what your maintenance is. I would say figure out what your body fat percentage is. I think that's a good way to start tracking. Just get all your stats, your maintenance, calorie maintenance, your body fat percentage, and your maybe your waist circumference or something, and then set a goal. Like, where is it you want to be? I think setting a goal body fat percentage wise is probably the best way to go. If you are happy with like 15 to 17% body fat, that's probably a very healthy range to be in. And then download your calorie app trackers like MyFitnessPal or MyPlate. I use MyPlate, which is a Livestrong product, and then start figuring out like, hey, okay, what do I want to eat this week? How can I start hitting my goals? And it doesn't have to be overnight. Like, you can say, okay, this week I'm just going to see if I can eat at maintenance. And then maybe next week I'll dip, 200 calories or 300 or 500 a week until you hit your whatever goal that it's supposed to be. But subtract whatever your maintenance is, 500 to 1,000 calories, depending on your goals of 1 to 2 pounds a week, and get going. Like, there's recipes out there. I'll post all these recipes. If you're new to working out in the gym, don't break yourself off first day in. Like, work your way slowly into the gym. Even if I've been out for 1 or 2 weeks, I will slowly work myself back in, because injury won't help me in the long run. Like, do 1 set of each muscle group and call it a day. And then next week, do 2 sets and then 3 sets, and then slowly build up your tolerance. You don't want to go in and wreck yourself on day 1 and then not want to work out, a couple days later.
But let's be clear, you probably will wreck yourself. Because if you haven't worked out like ever or in a long time, you get sore and you're going to feel like super painful the next day. But that's just because you're sore doesn't mean you should not do something. You need to keep moving, right? Because the whole point is to circulate blood, right? And if you're just sitting there because you're in pain, because you got the DOMS, delayed onset muscle syndrome, then it's just gonna sit there and pool, and it's not gonna feel any better. You got to keep moving.
So true. And so, that's pretty much it. Calculate what your maintenance is, figure out how much you want to lose, and download some apps and start tracking what you're eating. Yeah. Go lift some weights and maybe hire a trainer to teach you a thing or two or whatever. It's super stupid easy. Yeah. It's just math. If you can handle letting an app or a website do some math for you, you're done.
Yeah, absolutely.
After
That's
that,
awesome.
it's just mental willpower.
I just say this in closing. I'm really, really proud of you, man. It's pretty badass what you did.
Thanks, man.
And I can't wait to see phase 2, man.
Thanks, man. Me too. This is going to be a fun year.
Yeah.
So quick recommendation for the.
Oh, we're just cutting straight to that now.
Yeah. Well,
Let's cut.
Yeah, I was like,
No, that's fine.
Oh, well, yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. That's good. It's good. You sure you got it all?
No, I had so much more.
I know you did.
But I was like, man, this was shocking.
I mean, 245.
Yeah, that's
if anybody's still with us, they really wanted to hear that.
so true.
So I'm totally fine with it being this long, and I hope somebody's listened.
Same. And if this goes well, like I would love to. You have so much knowledge, clearly, that you barely dropped on like endurance athletes. That would be really cool. So, if y'all are enjoying this and you would love to hear about how to run your first marathon or your first Ironman, like we would love to, do an episode like that at some point, 6 months, whenever.
Sure.
That would be really fun. But drop us a note if you want that.
Yeah. Okay, so my recommendation this week is going to be Little Women,
Nice.
which I went and saw yesterday. I mean, there's plenty others that I could recommend as well, 1917 or whatever. But I just really enjoyed that movie, sitting with my wife, who is a writer, and watching that movie, and who has sisters and stuff. It was just like, this is not my style of movie at all. I was like, oh, she wants to see a movie. Okay, then I'm going to go with her because she never comes with me to see movies. And she wanted to see this. So I was like, okay, cool. And so I had no standard at all. And I know that it was a remake and everything, but I hadn't read the book or anything. So it was, Greta Gerwig is just,
she's amazing.
She's an incredible writer, an incredible director, and fantastic film.
Yeah. Badass. I will co-sign that happily.
Yep.
I'm going to recommend, there's this new little show called Pop Gum.
Oh, well done, sir. Like a boss.
I love it. Like, y'all should absolutely check it out if you like video games. It's a dad and his son playing games together, and it's so entertaining. It's really fun. Check it out. I'll put it in the show notes. It's a great YouTube channel. Pop Gum.
I think the next episode is dropping tomorrow too. So yeah, he's got a little guest with him.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah,
props, man. It's a really good project. I love it.
It's fun. He thought of the name, and
it
was. I was like, fine, let's do it. And so January 1st, we started it.
That's so badass.
He loves it. I'm breaking him though. He like constantly asks me about it. He wants to do episodes every single day, and I'm like, dude, you have no idea how much work goes into this, man. You just get to sit down and play a game. But anyway, thank you, man. That's
absolutely.
Awesome.
And I'll post a link in the show notes as well as one of the videos. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right.
I didn't have a short spotlight picked out this week, but because this is kind of a us-centric episode, I'll just finish it off with my very first writing, directing, and acting short film called Office Zombies, starring none other than the Todd Sapio.
And the Wes.
And the Wes.
Yeah.
And so check that out. It's one of our projects. You can see what we look like. I mean,
Aaron's in it.
Yeah, man.
Alyssa's in it. We two people we reference all the time.
All the time on the show.
Shannon helped out on it. He's not in it, but he helped out on it. You, me.
Yeah, it's
like the team.
Yeah, it's fun. I think y'all enjoy it. So check that out in the show notes, and stay tuned for next week. We are going to be doing kind of another one-off. This is only the second TV show we've done, but this was a listener request from Junie. So shout out Junie. We're going to be doing Mindhunter.
Yeah,
Netflix.
Man. I got to start now.
Oh man, I'm so excited.
Deep dive.
Love that. And so
Yeah.
don't forget, subscribe, review us on iTunes, especially if this is the only episode you've ever listened to.
Oh my God, yeah.
And you're still listening. We would really appreciate, a positive review. If you don't like us, that's fine. Keep it to yourself.
If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all.
We're a struggling
fine.
show. We have 17 reviews. Like, you can tank us way too easily.
Yeah.
Your power is
Well
great.
done. Well done. Yeah.
But if you want to leave a note on this episode in particular, you can do that at thepestlepodcast.com/3 rules of fat loss.
And by the way, our episodes are normally an hour-ish or so, not 3. So.
Not 3.
And our quote of the day that we'll leave you with is from Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is a big hero of mine. Strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strengths. When you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, that is strength. There is nothing in your life that this quote does not speak about. Every single morning you get out of bed is this quote. Every single morning you go to work is this quote. Every single morning you hit the gym is this quote. When you choose to not eat the cookie, it is this quote. When you do anything that has any kind of difficulty, even like anything at all, it is this quote. It is some summation of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It's so perfect. I'd never heard this quote. I'm not even sure I've really heard that idea so eloquently put. Strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strengths. That's so perfect. I love it. When you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, that is strength. Yeah. Perfect. Damn it, Arnold.
It's so good. It is so good. And anybody who's like, I don't know, I think ever since the whole thing with his housekeeper or whatever,
right.
like people, I don't know, have issues with him. I'm like, dude, if you watch Pumping Iron, you will not be surprised by that at all. Whatever. He's a brilliant man, and he's not just the best at everything he sets his mind to, but he's just a brilliant man and has quotes for everything and is kind, and he gives back. He's a philanthropist, and he's like, he's probably, if I can meet and have dinner with one person on the planet, he's, if not the guy, one of the top 3 guys on my list. Like, I love everything he's ever done. It's just awesome.
Damn cool.
Even the cheesy stuff.
Yeah.
Because he did it because he knew it was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he always knows. He always knows. And he's like the one guy, I feel like, who could be completely pompous, completely full of himself. And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's totally okay. Because you're Arnold freaking Schwarzenegger.
That's it.
It's like, I don't know how you get away with that.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. We're done.
Done.
Thank you guys for watching and listening and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Man, it's been a marathon.
It really has.
I mean, I just ran half one, and then I did a whole one. Now I'm going to run a whole one in a month. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. Join us next week again. We're going to be doing Mindhunter. Thanks for the recommendation on that. Wes, congratulations on phase 1, buddy.
Thanks, man.
You did great. And thank you for all the, I learned a lot from this. I definitely did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Man.
See you next time. I'm Todd.
I'm Wes.
Go watch the movies and work out and cut calories.